Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to NIGHTCAP for January 31st, 2022. Getting one in right at the end, right at the wire. Oh my goodness. So yeah, how's it going, everybody? I see Hagbert in the chat already. What's going on, my good friend? Thanks for joining. This will be one of two nightcaps this week. There will be no nightcap Wednesday night. I'm going to say that up at the top before I enjoy too many libations and forget to say it at the end. This is going to be tonight and then Friday on YouTube. And yeah, so coming off of the big debate night, we're going to have some interesting content for that. I think we're all going to get together, everybody that participated, minus Nico, and do a hot reacts only to our own debate. Should be a good time. Should be fun. Microphone work. Goddamn microphones. Anyways, so yeah, we're going to get into it tonight. Today we're going to be talking about all this anti-work business that's been going on. You know it. You love it. Who doesn't love anti-work? So we're going to go checking that stuff out. We're going to go check out some videos, explainers. We're going to check out their Reddit page, see if we can find anything spicy or interesting in there. This was shadow produced by the one and only Big Paul. He shadow produced this for me. He threw some stuff together. I threw in a few extra things myself. And that's where we'll go. We'll just start off there. So the first video we're going to watch is the problem with r/anti-work. What is anti-work? And this is from a channel, kind of a smaller channel called Alki, A-L-K-I. So go check him out or her or whoever. I haven't watched any of these videos per nightcap tradition. All live. All the time. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. You know, I've kind of avoided this whole anti-work thing. I haven't really looked into it. I just haven't been that curious about it. Because it kind of just seems like on the face what it is. I didn't even watch that Fox interview. What did that the mod from Anti-Work went on Jesse Waters' show? I didn't even watch it. I saw a couple clips here and there, like a 10-second little clips, but I don't know. So we're going to get into it tonight. We're going to learn as much as we possibly can. So let's check it out. What is anti-work?
2018, I quit my awful MBA job and started reading about socialism on Reddit. I frequented subreddits like r/breadtube and r/anarchism to cure my then and...
This is a very low video. We're going to have to hit the old boost. Have to hit the old booster. I think we're going to have a choice.
Insatiable interest in anti-capitalism. I don't recall when I discovered r/anti-work, but I do remember spending hours there reading questions and facts about anti-work. After becoming an anarchist, I found new value in this.
What's up, Prophet? Prophet, so thank God for albuterol. There we go. Otherwise, who knows how I'd be able to smoke all this pot, all this marijuana.
Reddit in the form of a space to meet other anarchists and discuss anti-capitalism, anti-work, and other related topics. At least, this was the case until a few months ago when I noticed that this subreddit has a problem. R/anti-work is no longer anti-work. Many of you from r/anti-work are going to stop watching the video, dislike it, and write a comment about why I'm wrong based on that one sentence, but I ask that you have an open mind. Give me a chance to explain what anti-work is and explain the problem with r/anti-work. Anti-work is an ideology that opposes work and seeks to abolish it. Work is involuntary and harmful to ourselves. It is unnecessary labor that people are coerced to do instead of living their lives, and therefore we should abolish it. A common reaction to these statements is that work is necessary for society to function, because most people would define work as any activity.
But no, it's not. You just gotta slow down, people. You just gotta slow down. We gotta go back to a simpler time. To a simpler time. I assume that's kind of what the gist is, just from even hearing this opening salvo here.
Involving mental or physical effort done in order to achieve a purpose or result. This isn't what we mean by work. We define work as, to quote Bob Black, forced labor, that is, compulsory production. Work is production enforced by economic or political means, by the carrot or the stick. The carrot is just a stick by other means. But not all creation is work. Work is never done for its own sake. It's done on account of some product or output that the worker, or more often somebody else, gets out of it. To put it another way, work is
like one of those movements that requires you to like redefine and re-explain very common vernacular. You know what I mean? So many of these movements do this. It reminds me a lot of like defund the police. And then you'd question, be like, well, why would you want to do that? Isn't crime going to go on the rise? No matter how we all feel about police, there is a deterrent aspect to what the police offer society. And like, and then everybody be like, well, we don't mean literally defund the police. We just mean like, make them better. Well, then you should find a new word. You should find a new way to explain it so it's not confusing. So we don't have to get into these semantic, pedantic debates about the meanings of basic words. It's very frustrating. It's kind of stupid and counterproductive, in my opinion.
Labor or effort that we are forced to do in order to survive within our current economic system, which is capitalism. When you expend effort at work for wages so that you can afford to buy food, pay rent, and maybe have health care, you are doing work, and that work is coerced by the artificially created threat of starvation, houselessness, and sickness by the powers that be, the state, the police, your landlord, and so on. It's for this.
Prophet says, funny, if these motherfuckers were busy working, they wouldn't have all day to sit around doing David Pakman dictionary definitions. And also, you would find parity with people. A lot of people would agree with you. They'd be like, oh, I mean, what is the difference? Is this like just a modern kind of union movement, basically, for workers' rights? You don't want to be mistreated. You want a fair wage. Or is it deeper than that? Because I think it depends on who you ask about it. That's what it seems like to me. It doesn't seem like there's a coherent thing. There's just a bunch of different concepts of what this movement represents, and they don't all agree. Just like defund the police, just like, sock Dems, communists.
This reason that work cannot be abolished without abolishing capitalism, and why anti-work is anti-capitalist. This is in contrast to any effort we do voluntarily for our own reasons. This video is an example of that. I don't make YouTube videos to make money to pay rent or buy food. I make them because
solid Zoobox numbers. This guy's doing very solid Zoobox numbers, okay? You're welcome, Alki. You're welcome.
I love talking about topics that interest me. This is a basic explanation of anti-work and work versus labor or effort that I think many who adhere to anti-work would agree with. But please be aware that there is a lot more to anti-work than what I have just explained. If you're interested in learning more, some resources can be found in the description below, as well as our anti-work sidebar.
And then they'll cite some little tribe, some village somewhere in a jungle, and be like, they made it work. Prophet says, but at the end of the day, work must be done. So by who? Not by my soft middle class ass. I read Hegel. Hagbert says, well, he can have a job in the party. Yeah, I know. Don't you love that? That's also another thing that's hysterical. Whenever these kids are polled, oh, when the revolution comes, what are you going to do afterwards? What are you going to do? I'm going to be a painter. I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to be a writer. It's like, you're going to be a worker. You're going to be in a factory. That's where you're going to be, buddy old pal.
Our anti-work is overwhelmingly no longer anti-work because of the content that dominates the sub and the conclusion that people draw from said content. It is now a place for people, mainly liberals, to post text messages of them quitting their job, stories about dreadful pay and working conditions, and to declare random, unorganized strikes or labor action.
Oh, no.
Now, liberals creating threads about bad work experiences, recognizing exploitation from bosses, and removing themselves from that sort of work environment is a good thing in moderation. I do want liberals or progressives on the sub. It was in threads like those where they were introduced to explanations of anti-work by anarchists, a starting point that could result in them or someone else reading the thread eventually embracing anti-capitalism and anti-work. No, these posts wouldn't be a problem if they weren't the vast majority of what's posted, and if it wasn't for the conclusion that people are seemingly drawing from these threads. That anti-work is about refusing to work until we have a nice boss, fair wages, and good working conditions, because we would happily work.
Yeah, it's called a union. We've done this before. Generally, I mean, how do you ensure that without some kind of apparatus, Hagbert says they're all going to work in the lithium and bauxite mines. Yeah. Do you think anybody's going to want their quality of life to go down when Dear Leader takes over? Whoever that may be. Prophet says these are the same kids who tried to plant root vegetables in 3 inches of mulch at the park in the Chaz. Their corpses won't even have any usable loot.
Work under those conditions. That's not anti-work, that's pro-work. Anti-work isn't about nice bosses, it's about no bosses. Anti-work isn't about fair wages, it's about abolishing the wage system. Anti-work isn't about good working conditions. It's about abolishing work because we hate work. Well, don't expect everyone on our...
That's what happens when you have like a loose definition of whatever your movement is, whatever your cause is. Everybody who has any petty grievance with anything that's ever happened to them gets to jump in and project that onto your movement. And then at some point, it becomes about nothing. I think we actually saw that a lot while we were watching a lot of the vegans go at it, right? Watching a lot of the discussions and debates that we watched over the past week and a half, their movements become just about everything. It becomes all-encompassing. And it dilutes itself. It dilutes its own purpose or ability to be effective.
To work to reach this conclusion overnight or even ever. When the narrative of the sub is dominated by people who say that anti-work isn't about anti-work, I think that's a problem. Instead of seeing anarchist ideas, new visitors will only see liberal misconceptions of an anarchist term and walk away no closer to anarchism or anti-capitalism than when they entered. The aforementioned misconception of anti-work stems from people who don't understand anti-work, don't understand what we mean by work, and have misconceptions about how anti-work relates to organized labor. And it's here I want to...
Then don't call it fucking anti-work then. People don't understand what we mean when we say work. I wonder why. It's like you're shooting yourself in the foot.
To touch on that last point. Come on now, I know my regular viewers didn't think I wasn't going to talk about labor in this video. The video How Anti-Work Could Save the Working World by Saunders Studios, which has nearly 9,000 views at the time of recording.
How Anti-Work Could Save the Working World.
It's a perfect example of equating anti-work with organized labor. Here, Saunders attempts to explain the history of anti-work and how it could be used today to save the working class, but instead talks about strikes in the labor movement during the 1930s. In his follow-up video titled How to Anti-Work, Saunders is talking less about...
it just seems like a world-weary traveler. A guy who's probably been working for at least, 5-6 years. Probably has a lot of experience, right? Prof says, political theory based off of growing up with fully stocked shelves at Target. Fucking Pop-Tart people.
About how to do anti-work and more about organized labor action in relation to a general strike, specifically the Black Friday blackout general strike thing, which I'll touch on in a moment. And I just want to say I'm not trying to pick on Saunders here because you see this kind of stuff on our anti-work too. People applying the term anti-work to organized labor action, namely strikes. These are not the same thing. The John Deere strike and Kellogg strike have nothing to do with anti-work.
Yeah, because it'd be crazy because they might be effective to a certain degree. You know, it's not some nebulous bullshit that you guys are like to go on a Reddit sub and jerk each other off. Oh, it's like the anti-natalists.
The goal of anti-work is the abolition of work, while organized labor or unions
and
are...
remember, guys, work isn't work. Work is just things that you don't want to do. So if you're doing something that requires labor that you enjoy, well, that's not work.
Possible method to achieve that goal in some circumstances. If you look at the mainstream labor movement in unions like the UAW or BCTGM, they believe in negotiating with bosses for better pay and benefits, a process known as collective bargaining. When bosses refuse to negotiate fairly and a contract runs out, the workers may go out on strike to put pressure on them to agree to their demands of a fair contract. All of this is generally good. But there's a huge problem. Those unions don't want to abolish capitalism. They believe that employers and workers have common interests. They are pro-work. They are so pro-work.
So it's just another way to launder socialism or communism into the zeitgeist. Get disaffected people, get people that are unhappy with their jobs, unhappy being mistreated, which happens. It happens all the time, especially in the service industry, right? Those jobs suck, and you are often mistreated, often asked to dig a little bit deeper. Can't you just ruin your life and have no social life, no home life, no family life so you can come here and stock a shelf? It's fucking irritating. I know. I've worked plenty of those jobs. Prophet says it's like the anti-Nephilim say. Say that again. The anti-Nephalehi. Only in the Book of Mormon, folks. Also, every time Nico said, folks, I wanted to drop him from the top rope. Yeah, exactly. Hagbert says, folks with uterus.
in fact that they agree to no strike clauses, restricting workers' right to strike for the duration of the collective bargaining agreement. Compare that to the radical labor movement with unions like mine, the industrial workers of the world. The IWW seeks to create rank-and-file run unions at every workplace in the short term and believes in the abolition of the wage system and collective ownership of the means of production in the long term. We believe that the working class and the employing class have nothing in common. We're generally anti-work, though the IWW rejects all political labels. Whether you're anti-work or not, you should organize your workplace. The IWW offers organizer training one-on-one to anyone who wants to learn how to form a solidarity or rank-and-file run union, and I encourage everyone watching this video to take it. About organized labor action and declaring strikes on Reddit. Stop doing that. Actions like the McDonald's strikes, which are really...
Why? Why would you care? If it's anything that would improve the conditions, they just don't want people fucking up their subreddit. Too many people in there talking about things that guys like this, the armchair philosophers, pseudo-intellectuals, well, they can't jerk each other off about semantic terms. They can't do that anymore. They can't have their own insular little world with their own little private language. They can't have that anymore. And it disturbs them. Hey, what's up, Tarami? Hey.
Boycotts, since they haven't been organized by McDonald's workers, are slacktivism and have little if any effect. Declaring fake general strikes online like the Black Friday blackout.
They call it slacktivism. So I assume like hashtag warriors, etc. What are you guys doing in r/anti-work? What are you guys doing? Are you just like encouraging people to quit their jobs? I don't know. Prof says white people aren't worth saving.
Is even less effective because those actions never get organized. I know some will say that the blackout contributed to the downturn on Black Friday, but that seems highly unlikely. And no, I'm not just basing that on media reports, I'm basing that on the posts here asking what happened and the lack of response to them. Take organizer training and learn how to organize effective direct action that will actually get the better pay and working conditions you desire. Fake general strikes are a distraction from effective organizing. I think the labor misconceptions and fake actions have played a large role in contributing to the problem with our anti-work, so labor resources are linked below. As the sub has continued to grow, misconceptions of anti-work have spread throughout the subreddit and beyond it, essentially becoming the default position. Today, when fellow anarchists on our anti-work attempt to educate people about anti-work and correctly inform them that the subreddit is anarchic, they are more often than not met with vitriol. Productive discussions about anti-work are somewhat difficult to find and appear to have been largely drowned out or disappeared because of the hostility. I've made multiple attempts to strike up a conversation with people about anti-work, correct them on their pro-work misconception of it, and explain how it relates to socialism or anarchism. Most of these...
Yeah, see, it's just these same fucking things that crop up again and again and again. They're like, well, you know, when we called it this, it has a negative connotation, so let's rebrand it. Let's rebrand it. And these people live in a fucking fantasy world if they think that socialism or communism has anything to do with the utopia that they're fucking talking about. That's not how it would be. Somebody's still got to work. Somebody's going to still have to do things they don't like doing. And then it becomes relative. It becomes debatable. Well, what is worth doing? What do we really need? Again, kind of like vegans when they say, like, well, you don't have to eat animal products. You don't have to eat them. You know, you can survive. You can survive without them. Sure, you can survive. But at what quality of life? The same question should be asked to these people. At what quality of life are you expecting on the other side of this movement?
Conversations were negative, with the other person claiming that anti-work isn't about abolishing work or anti-capitalism, and unsurprisingly repeating all the anti-socialist arguments liberals normally give. They were only interested in the general misconception of anti-work because that's what nearly everyone else on the subreddit is saying. Of course, not every single thread or interaction is like this on the subreddit. I've had positive conversations with people new to the sub about anarchism and organized labor. But the majority of anti-capitalist conversations don't seem to follow this trend because of the current demographics of the subreddit and how they define anti-work.
Uh-oh. We got centrists in here. We got conservatives in here. We got sock dem progressives in here. Oh, shit. See, yeah, the sock dem progressives, you got to watch out for those people. These are the people you got to watch out for. They will infest every movement that exists and impose their will. That seems like what happens, right? You can even just see that in broadly speaking, and just basic, basic American politics.
Our anti-work's problem matters because we lost an online anarchist and more generally anti-capitalist space. Our anti-work is no longer really a subreddit for anarchists and potential anti-capitalists to congregate, discuss, and educate people about anti-work and other anarchist ideas. It's become a place severely lacking in anarchist content and often hostile to the very ideas it was created to spread. Meanwhile, the term anti-work has been co-opted and divorced from its original meaning, making it more difficult to introduce people to the idea.
Yeah, I think if you're in The Guardian and somebody's ready to quit your job, come and join me in the anti-work movement. Person with a job writing for The Guardian.
It's an incredibly disappointing but unsurprising development to see for the growing subreddit. So how do we fix our anti-work? As much as I like the idea of the creation of a sister sub,
it's like, I don't know how else to say it, guys, but we're going to have to start getting people to embrace non-existence by any means necessary. There we go. Hagbard says, so, how does this person support themselves? I'm curious. Oh, he's probably like a NEET. He lives in his mom's house. I don't know. They don't ever disclose this. He says he does YouTube for pleasure, not for money. So I don't know. Prophet says anarchists by and large exist off their own farts and some weird act of fission. Trami says, is he bitching about Reddit being a cesspool? How observant. Yeah, right.
Sub while leaving this sub as anti-work, I think it's highly unlikely that will happen. But I don't think all is lost either. When the mod started limiting text message screenshots to Sunday, I noticed an improvement in the subreddit, so perhaps small solutions like that might be the trick. Since 85% of people found this subreddit in the past year according to the survey, there should be some sort of disclaimer in the form of a pinned post that anti-work is an anti-capitalist and anarchist concept. A pinned post is best because over 80% of people use our anti-work on mobile according to the survey and can't see the sidebar. It's at least a place to start. The only thing we can really do is keep posting and educating those who are moving left. There's still a lot of great folks doing that, even if they are mostly buried by other posts. Perhaps in time, the sub will balance out and become a space to educate people about anti-work again.
But see, here's the thing, and this is the same thing I would say with like anti-work, anarchists. They're just like, they can recognize problems. They're good at recognizing problems. They're not good at offering any type of practical or pragmatic solutions. And I know about anarchism a little bit because, I've spent a lot of time over the years, when you start flirting with libertarianism and stuff like that. I watched a lot of debates, I read a lot of books, I listened to a lot of lectures, and they very rarely ever produce an actual workable system on the other side of it. They're just like, we'll figure it out. And hey, if that's your cause, if that's how you want to put it, I guess good for you. At least that's something. At least they could admit that. But Jesus Christ, it doesn't. That's why it's so hard to really engage with this stuff. Big Paul says, "Yo, hello from DC. What's up, Big Paul?" Trump says, "Got to gatekeep this public space of discussion." Yeah, I know.
The new people begin to embrace socialism. For those watching who aren't anti-capitalist and have made it this far, first off, thank you for watching to this point.
You're
Second,
welcome.
Please understand that anti-work is an anarchist concept, and that our anti-work is an anti-capitalist subreddit. You should recognize that and at least be open to anti-capitalist ideas and discussions there. We understand that many of you are at different political stages and that the processes of rejecting capitalism is different for everyone.
I read a book when I was 14, and I was like, oh.
Went down a similar path because of bad work experiences too. I know I did. But if you're not open to critiques of capitalism and only want to complain about work or get better wages and nicer bosses, then you're not anti-work, and there are better places for you to post that kind of content. Thanks for watching. This was a very different video from the type I normally make, but I thought it was worth making.
Normally I just make regular commie videos. This was about Reddit.
The comment section is going to be fascism. My intention was never to make a video that would respond to most people on the sub. However, seeing as how they will eventually find this video anyway, I decided to include some information for them. As stated earlier, there are resources in the description below for anyone interested in learning more about the topics I discussed here and then some.
Okay.
I suggest you check out my channel if you're interested in videos about organized labor, including general strikes. Speaking of, I'm still working on the general strike series, and the last 2 videos will come out sometime next year.
Oh, that's so nice. I'm so glad that he's still working. He's working on something. Oh boy. So somebody actually started an anti-work YouTube channel, I found. They also give their version of what anti-work is. And so let's throw that. I'm going to throw that into the mix. It's a kind of a longer video, so I don't know if we'll make it through the whole thing. We'll see how funny and charismatic this guy is. But yeah. He doesn't really have too many videos, and we are going to be the 13th people to have watched this. And he started the channel a few weeks ago. Anti-work. 2 subs. You know what? Let's give him a sub. Let's encourage the man. Hey, at least he's doing some kind of work, some kind of labor. We're really doing him a favor. Honesty. In all honesty, we're doing this man a favor. There's no closed captions.
Not going to be very polished because
oh my god,
this message out.
Was it the night of the quiet videos? For the love of God, dude.
Is more important than how pretty the package is. So, I'm going to jump right in. In a minute, I will explain what anti-work is, what the movement says it is. I'm not going to speak for it, which leads me into my disclaimer here. I'm not the founder. I'm not the spokesperson. I am not in contact with any of the mods. I do not coordinate with any of the people who may presuppose to be leaders of the movement. As far as I understand.
Tarami says, there's similarities to the veganism things we've watched. It's only going the entire way to some extreme that counts. Everything else is no true Scotsman. Yeah, you find that a lot in these groups. Nobody wants to define terms. And then they get upset when you don't buy into their terms that you don't know exist. You know, because a lot of times they use like common phrasing and colloquialisms to mean something completely different. They're like, oh, well, you know, we're talking about the academic way to put it. It's like what happened with the word racist, you know, around like 2014, 2015. You started them like kind of making, like, I remember like MTV was really, which seems weird, I know, but MTV was like pushing the redefinition of racism into being the academic racism, which is like, you know what, privilege plus power equals racism. Prophet says, every one of these people looks as rough as a paper plate. Yeah, very shreddable.
It's an organic movement. I do know that there are protests, or rather demonstrations, planned, which I am going to go into detail in a future video on what those demonstrations aim to do and what they look like. But here, I'm going to tell you, from what I understand of anti-work, I'm pro-anti-work. I'm an advocate for it, and I do think there are actionable things that you can do for yourself. And the way that I can do things for the movement starts here with this channel and letting you know what your power is. So,
what my power is? Oh my goodness! Can I shoot ice out of my hands like Iceman? Prophet says, I can already see how Theo is going to have a problem in the world because he's so aggressive and bombastic, and we cultivate that. Yeah, I'm dealing with that with my son right now. Right now. He's too imaginative, he's too smart, he's too rough. And that does not conform to the world we live in now.
With that, I think we covered the disclaimer part that I am not the originator or the spokesperson, and that the advice that I give you is for United States only. I do not have enough knowledge of any other labor practices in any other countries or on any other continents.
Yeah, but don't you want to like cite some obscure tribe or village somewhere where they do it? And therefore we should all do it? Checkmate.
I encourage other creators in those countries to go do this for their countrymen or country persons. And
oh, thank you for the correction. Country persons. Let's not be fucking bigoted here. Let's not do that, my guy. I don't want to get my channel banned because I watched your video. Your evil, misogynistic ways.
You know, if they're allowed to actually have free speech in their countries. So,
We're country folk.
with that, the goal specifically for this channel is to give you practical, actionable steps and information that you can use to be a part of this movement to the extent that it serves you and hopefully others like you.
He's like, step 1, when you get upset at work, shit on the floor.
Repeating that again, practical, actionable steps you get to use. There can be some broadness to movements. I'm not here to criticize this movement at all. Again, I just want it to move. I want it to progress. And I do think we can do that if we each have knowledge of the power we...
Trami comes in. He says, now watch him import ideas from elsewhere, ideas that were shaped by a completely different culture and conditions of the time. Yes, that's how most of these people act. I can't wait until we do the review of the debate because Nico did the same thing. He did the same thing a few times. He started talking about villages in Nicaragua and how they don't eat meat except one day a month because that's what their economy will allow.
We have and start exercising that power despite the discomfort. So, I want to now jump into what the anti-work movement is defined as. And again, I'm not going to define that. If you feel at any point in time that I am misconstruing it or misrepresenting it, I'm just going to say it one more time. I'm not a spokesperson for it. Here, you're going to get my filter of how I think I can work within the movement. And how I think you can.
I'm gonna start making anti-work videos. I'm gonna steal this guy's grift. I'm gonna start a new channel called The Real Anti-Work Channel.
But I am not the end-all be-all of this movement. God, I hope not. So, from the mods posted January 5th, 2022. What is the anti-work movement? From FAQ, anti-work subreddit is a subreddit for those who want to end work, are curious about ending work, want to get the most out of...
Are you going to define your terms? Curious about ending work. How does anything happen then? Trami says, Uganda is the most climate-neutral country in the world. You can work out why. Yeah, it's almost like it's completely fucking different than most Western countries. Oh, I guess we should all go back to that. We got to go back completely to kind of tribalism. Get rid of most of our technology. You know, maybe, sometimes it don't seem so bad. that idea doesn't seem so bad sometimes. But then we wouldn't be able to watch NIGHTCAP. I wouldn't be able to make it.
Out of a work-free life, want more information on anti-work ideas, and want personal help with their own jobs or work-related struggles. That's where this channel focuses on. At least that's where we're going to start, and we are going to branch out, trust me. But the number one goal for today and tomorrow, and a couple of the first videos, is how you personally, in your job and your struggle, might have more power than you think you do. And it's been designed that way. We'll go into that.
This is what they're doing. They're taking the notion of like being in a union, informing people, workers' rights, informing people what their actual rights are, and they're just like, well, what if but what if we just tore it all down? What if you just became a socialist or a communist? Why don't we just add that onto it? We add that ingredient into the cake. It's always the same thing with these. It's never honest. It's never fucking honest. All roads lead to the same nihilistic horseshit.
That later too, and we'll do another video about it. Continuing, and this I think is the most important part and the most misunderstood part about the anti-work movement. We are not saying that we are against labor, against productivity, against growth or personal development. We are, and you should definitely take note of this, specifically in opposition to the notion of the hierarchical, coercive relationship of employer and employee that exists under capitalism, where the people must sell their labor and subordinate their life and will to the ownership class.
As opposed to what? The only thing you're going to do, you want to transfer the ownership class to the government. Do you think that relationship is going to be any different? Really, at the end of the day, do these people think that that relationship is going to be significantly different than what exists now? At least in the apparatus that we live under, in the Western world, this paradigm, there is an opportunity, however small. Crony capitalism is a thing, right? It's not very far from a perfect system, far from operating perfectly, but there's at least a small chance that you might be able to carve your own something out of this world. And they just want to change that. They want to make it like, well, you can't. You're never going to be able to do that yourself anymore. Now, because it's too uncomfortable. It's too hard. Wouldn't you just rather be told what to do like you're a fucking robot? Have your ambitions snuffed out?
In order to earn a living, which implies a notion that people who cannot or choose not to engage in this type of work do not deserve to live.
You don't have to. People do it all the fucking time. We call them bums. I've been a bum before. We call them bums. to be harsh. You can opt out. And most people, while they may have a negative opinion of you personally, I don't think anybody's just like, man, I hope you fucking die. I hope you die tomorrow. Sucking up all this air.
Not a spokesperson. Here's how I'm filtering it for us, or for me. Pretty easy. Not against labor, not against productivity or growth. I'm all about that because they do understand. Most of us do have to earn a wage, unfortunately.
Trami says, I didn't know NIGHTS pursued something so noble. Me neither, my friend. Prof says, with Hagbard, Trami, and Big Paul in the chat, it's like a Soul Train line of assholery. I love it. Me too. Me too. You guys make the show so much more than it was before you were here.
We haven't moved enough in the movement yet to make that go away. So, specifically in opposition to the notion of hierarchical coercive relationships. Hierarchical meaning a structured way that typically goes up, kind of like peasant, knight, queen, king. Coercive relationship, I'm just going to say bait, right? You need to get this paycheck here, so you have to be a part of this system. Otherwise, you can't feed yourself, you can't feed your family, and you can't have a dog licking itself all day while you're trying to make a video.
Not me, though, he says.
Where the people must sell their labor, which is what we're doing when we're trying to earn wages, and subordinate their life and will to the ownership class to earn the living. That is more what you might call work-life balance, or what corporate will call work-life balance, in that how much time do you get to spend with your kids? How much time do you spend having to put in extra work at work as opposed to doing what you would actually be doing if you didn't have to be a part of this system? So how you work within the system is going to be up to you. Other people, you're going to be on a spectrum of what you can do, what you think you can do, and perhaps even build yourself a path to something that's more on the spectrum of not working at all.
Yeah, and then where do you derive meaning from? Unfortunately, a lot of people, well, unfortunately or fortunately, like, it gives people a reason to wake up in the morning. Not everybody can be self-motivated to create or to do things or become an entrepreneur. That's why not everybody starts a company. You know what I mean? Hagbard says, this guy stirs up ancient feelings of wanting to throw rotten vegetables at a person. It's like epigenetic race memory.
And I'm sure it's possible. I'm still have been part of the ownership class for so long that it's hard to get unbrainwashed from thinking it is possible. But it is. People do it all the time. So, moving on. That is essentially what the anti-work movement.
Prophet says, I can't even pay attention to anything he's saying because he's so wispy and fey. No wonder why his boss pushes him around. Yeah, well, you know, it's tough at the Starbucks.
I think I went over my goal with you guys. The next thing I'm just going to talk about so you can actually have something that's practical, actionable now is, and again, another video later down the line, right now, what I'm here for is to let you work within the system that's made to work against you. The system has been perfected over.
Trimus says, did he say he had been part of the ownership class, like a business owner? That is kind of what he implied. He said, oh, it's hard to break from that, being part of that class, having an understanding beyond yourself, your own needs, the fact that you run a company or a business. Either that or he's just talking about the fact that he started a YouTube channel.
Over 200 years to ensure your failure to combat its encroachment. Meaning that this capitalist / ownership system that we are a part of has been perfected for 200 years, and that's why we all feel like we can do nothing about it. But the great thing about the constraint of the system is you can find a lot of black and white areas, a lot of gray areas, and you can start to turn the tide to your advantage if you take methodical steps in the same way that these companies have done for hundreds of years. And the reason I'm saying it in this way is because, again, companies are used to getting their way. It's been happening the whole time. They know how to do it. They know how to rewrite laws, how to rewrite the handbook, how to rewrite job descriptions, how to take advantage of all the things that have been set up to keep them powerful, and how to force that on you and continue to make you.
Yeah, sorry, Tarami. I was going to put the closed captions on. This is not available for this video, so I apologize.
You turn and pivot to try and not get screwed by it. Essentially, what I'm trying to tell you is that within that system and those gray areas, you actually do have a lot of power to go back on it. You just have to actually believe it. You have to know what the resources are available to you. And again,
okay, so he's been talking for 9 minutes and he said nothing.
And the reason I keep on going back to 200 years of perfection is that's chess. That's not checkers. That's a long con. That is not winning roulette. So,
Trauma says, so anti-work is not for the hearing impaired. No, I mean, what do you have to offer, really, you know?
You don't want to go into a long con trying to play roulette and trying to get a quick win. If you're going to fight this system,
it is ableist.
You better or should be prepared, essentially, if you're trying to do it on a big level, that it is going to be uncomfortable at times. You're going to feel like you probably don't have the power that you actually do. But again...
Listen, I'm all for informing workers of their rights. A lot of people don't understand their own rights when they work at places. That's 1,000% true. I don't think anybody would deny that. I'm all for that. You should empower workers to at least know what their rights are on a very basic level, because most people don't. But they got to take it to this place where you're just like, it's like the vegans. You're just like, yeah, I agree with you on a lot of things. I agree with you on a lot of things about like diets and consumption and factory farming and the processes that we do things. But then you lose people when you start implying that they're bad people for not believing what you believe wholesale. They'd be a lot more effective if they just lighten the fuck up.
If you follow specific steps and you work within the system to undermine it, you'll make some progress. And it might just be enough progress that you need to stop having work in the sense, or experiencing work in the sense that it is defined in the anti-work movement. So, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
First thing I'll tell you, the answer to 95% of all of the questions that you might have about your own personal situations at work can be answered through 4 primary resources.
Oh my
Number
God.
1 is your handbook. The next video I do is going to be on...
All right, that's it. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. I can't do any more of this, dude. That's enough. Oh my God. And he doesn't have any other... Well, he has one other like 20-second video, but it's just explaining what that is. So this is a video called "It's Not Anti-Work." It's not an anti-work movement. It's an anti-employee movement. This is from, what is the channel name on this thing? This is from Work It Daily. Looks like it used to be a TikTok video. How exciting! How wonderful! Travis says, a common thread in our viewings, so much that's based on destruction rather than creation. Yeah, I was actually, just Big Paul and I were just chatting one night, and he's just like, yeah, all these things we've been looking into kind of like circle the same ideas, the same principle. They presuppose the same thing. And a lot of it deals with like apathy and nihilism to a certain degree. And this kind of all started, this journey started like going into this stuff with like antinatalism. Well, that's what I meant. The anti-work, antinatalism, veganism, they all have these things in common where they're like eugenicists, and they kind of believe they wouldn't say it. They'd be hard pressed to say it. Yeah, they just think that most people shouldn't exist. Seems like what's at the bottom of it, because the more people that exist, the more resources are required, the more work you're going to have to do in the case of the anti-work movement. They don't like that. They ain't down with that. All right, let's see what this person's got to say. Let's see what they got to say.
So Business Insider just did this article on the rise of the anti-work movement. And now Goldman Sachs is saying that this could be a major long risk factor to the labor force participation. And then Forbes comes out saying, hey, anti-work movement is a sign there's something rotten in the workplace. So while I think it is great that corporate America is finally waking up to the fact that something is really wrong, I hate the term anti-work movement, because it isn't that people are against working.
Oh no, this is one of these social progressives that they were talking about in that other video. These people that come in and they muddy the waters. They muddy the waters. They don't let these people have their space, have their places to voice their opinions.
And I think a lot of people are going to spin the anti-work movement as being lazy. This is an anti-employee movement, meaning people are done with being employees. They don't want to be held hostage by golden handcuffs.
Okay, if that's what you were to say, if that's how you were to put it, be like, okay, this is an anti, like, working for people that you don't want to work for. I can at least understand that. I can at least get behind that to a certain degree. Then you shouldn't call it anti-work. Like she said, that's a fucking stupid name. Like defund the police. If it doesn't mean what it seems like it means, then what are you doing? Tarami says they can't even agree on which 10% they have to execute to make this work. Probably more than that.
These days, doing a job because of the paycheck and having to do whatever the employer says feels like, again, it's like a bribe. It's like you're held hostage, and people are just so unhappy with feeling that way. The funny thing is hundreds of years ago, you worked for yourself. You were
yeah, and then you take that feeling and then you try to create something for yourself. Not everybody is equipped for that, though. Most people are not equipped to do that. Psychologically, financially, all of those things. So you need to be able to do something in the interim. Sometimes that means working for other people. Sometimes that means helping a company just by virtue of doing a good job for them. Then you become valuable, and then you find purpose.
Business of one. I don't know if you can see my sign back there that my clients gave me, but I say this all the time. When you stop thinking like an employee and you start thinking like a business of one, then it doesn't matter if you're doing contract work, full-time work, whatever kind of work. You go into it with a mindset that, hey, we're business partners and we'll agree upon something. And when it starts to not work for me, I'm going to step back and I'm going to figure out what it takes to make it still work for me. And either I'll stay here or I'll move on. That is why I need to call it the anti-employee movement. I think being an employee is dead, done, gone. We are all business.
Yeah, it's not anti-employee, it's anti-employee mindset. The mindset that makes people feel that way, where they don't take agency or ownership over their own time and their own physical resources, their labor. It's okay to ask for better working conditions. It's okay to push back when something wrong is happening. More people should be empowered to do that. But that's not really what these people are talking about. So this right here, we're watching one of these co-opters. This woman is a co-opter. She wants to go in to this subreddit and tell these people that their conceptualization of anti-work is wrong. Trami says, you did not work for yourself. The pioneers on the frontiers of America maybe did, but everyone else had lords already. Yeah, we've always had systems like this. Always. Every culture. Prophet says, hundreds of years ago, you worked for yourself. What, where, and when? Yeah, because she just thinks she has this like pie in the sky view. Like, well, everybody had a farm. Everybody grew their own crops. And if you have your own food and you have a house, well, then you've worked for yourself. But it's like, well, where did that house come from? Where did that land come from? Like, how far back do we need to go? How far back do we need to go? It requires people to take risk to produce things. That's the truth. Maybe people don't like that. I don't know. But somebody has to put down the fucking money or buy the land, buy the property, start a business, do whatever for anything to happen. Because not everybody wants to do that.
Businesses of one. When we adopt that mindset and we go at it, we will rebuild the working relationship because people do want to work. They just want to feel respected. They want to have equal partnership. And that's what's been missing all this while. And if you believe me and you support me on this, please like this, share it with somebody you know, and follow me here because I'm on.
Trami says, to nomadic times, when work maybe didn't exist in the sense we use it today at all. Yes, I think... Yeah, all the way back. Let's go all the way back.
All about teaching people to follow the anti-employee movement and figuring out how to embrace their business of one and get happy. And that's what we do every single day here on TikTok, okay? Go get them.
Go get them, y'all. Out here on TikTok, spreading that message. Work it daily. I don't think, is it just this lady? Okay, so she has another... Want to quit your job? This is how. This is from a few months ago. So this woman's like there to help employee-employer relationships. Professional advice. That lady has been featured on CNN, MSNBC, The New York Times, LinkedIn, Fast Company. She's all over the place, spreading the good word. Okay, this is like a normie explainer, I think. I think it's called the anti-work ethic on screen, how to escape your job. Well, all right then. They got closed captions? They do?
And I don't ever want to work one more day in my entire life.
Have you ever felt like you're wasting your single precious life doing a job you hate? Right now, millions of U.S. workers are quitting their jobs in the Great Resignation. After the COVID-19
Yeah, that's another thing they're calling it, the Great Resignation, because COVID-19 exposed to a lot of people that they don't really want to work their shitty jobs. Even though like the stimulus wasn't crazy, it wasn't anything like that, but there are parts of the world, because so much of like popular media is driven by metropolitan areas. Very like deep blue areas. And a lot of those people have had to deal with the pandemic in ways that other places, parts of the country, at least in the United States, haven't had to. So I live in South Carolina. The pandemic has, functionally, other than any state program, has been over for a year, if not more. It's done. It's over with. Everybody goes about their lives pretty normal. Pretty average existence, unless you have to deal with anything with a hospital or a school or the DMV. Those things, they stayed closed forever. But most places, They just kind of went about their life. At some point, they're just like, we can't do this. So when these people talk about like this perspective, the great resignation, they're talking about people that have had things taken from them, that have been put out of work forcefully by the government, with no support by the government either. And those people, at some point, when you're just ripped back and forth, they just say, fuck it. Fuck it. You're not here for me. You're not here to help produce anything. It's whatever. Hagbert says, not here. They're still hyper spurgy. Yeah, I know. I think where you live. Yeah, they definitely are. Yeah. I thank God every day. There's still a few stores that have signs that are just like, oh, mask required. I would say 80% of the people that go there don't wear them. And the people that are wearing them are wearing those fucking cloth masks that don't do almost nothing. Almost not worth even wearing.
Pandemic sparked a mass reevaluation of priorities, but on screen, we've gravitated for decades towards characters who express a philosophy of life that's an alternative to capitalism's assumptions.
We don't have a lot of time on this earth. We weren't meant to spend it this way, filling out useless forms and listening to 8 different bosses drone on about mission statements.
These anti-work characters riot against unlivable working conditions, challenge irresponsible companies that care only about making a profit, refuse to acquiesce to senseless labor, call out parasitic consumer culture, use the jobs that are exploiting them to their own advantage, reveal the evils of a system based on capital, and won't give up their principles or identity for the workplace.
If given a choice between doing something and nothing, I'd choose to do nothing. But I will do something if it helps someone else do nothing. I'd work all night if it meant nothing got done.
Being
I
anti-work...
like how they try to turn Ron Swanson into like some sort of socialist figure. Oh, isn't that reappropriation? The man's obviously a libertarian. Come on now.
doesn't mean being against all labor and effort. It's about refusing to let what we do for income cost us our lives and our humanity. Here's our take.
Tarami says, yes, movies also have people in capes flying around. It's not a good indication of realistic expectations. Yeah, because it's all fantasy, right? It's all kayfabe. It's all what we would like to experience, what we would like to do. But it doesn't have to explain itself. It doesn't have to go any deeper or be any more serious than the story requires. We don't need to see past the end of what the writers, the directors, what they want to give us, what they want us to address.
Take on the anti-work heroes of film and TV and what their anti-work ethic teaches us about resisting soul-sucking jobs and changing the system.
Yeah, what is it called? Thank You for something, or not Thank You for Smoking. This movie is awful. It's very well made by Boots Riley. I can't remember the name of it. I always forget the name of it, but it's a commie movie about being a commie and about how you shouldn't do anything.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified about all.
Travis says, sorry for bothering you. That's the name. That's it. I forget it all the time. I think actually on the last Zoobox Goes to the Library, Big Paul was talking about it. We were talking about it, and I couldn't remember the name that time either.
All of our new videos. Thank you to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. Brilliant is an interactive problem-solving website. Labor points out. Visit brilliant.org/thetake. Anthropologist David Graeber points out that in the early 20th century, it was believed that by the year 2000, people in rich countries like the US and the UK would have a 15-hour work week due to technological progress. But
boy, was he wrong.
Instead, technology only made work more soul-deadening and somehow has led us to work more by creating new positions that are actually pointless. Graeber distinguishes two types of terrible jobs: bullshit jobs and just bad jobs. Bullshit jobs are those that appear to offer no true purpose or contribution to society.
So I go through these thousands of lines of code and it doesn't really matter.
Because they are so meaningless, bullshit jobs cause existential
Yes, bullshit jobs that people don't want to do. But that's not true for everybody that works those jobs. Like, we experience the world through characters that are unhappy because we need to do that for drama, to make it interesting. And then they go find purpose doing something else, something they find more meaningful. Case in point, Office Space. He's like, I'd rather be a construction worker. Find more purpose, more meaning than working in an office. Hagbert says, I want to drive around in a van with a Great Dane getting high and solving mysteries. Well, you know, brother, if you can dream it. If you can dream it. Trami says, I go through thousands of lines of code and I fucking love it. Case in point right there, Trami, right? Some people like that kind of work. And that's okay.
Despair. The employees of Dunder Mifflin compared their workplace unfavorably to prison.
You got outdoors time? Michael, why don't we get outdoors time?
But paradoxically...
Oh, do you see this joke that they made in The Office? Checkmate. Checkmate.
Many unnecessary bullshit jobs are overpaid, while more necessary and meaningful jobs are underpaid. As Dallas Hawthorne wrote on Twitter, I don't think boomers realize how many of us actually want to work as librarians.
Oh, the Dallas Hawthorne trans werewolf. Well, if you can't believe a trans werewolf, who can you believe? Who can you trust these days?
Gardeners and teachers. Those jobs just don't pay us enough to feed us, so we have to take jobs we hate to get paid more. It's as though there's a trade-off happening in modern employment. You either earn money or get to do something with meaning. According to Graeber, the existence of so many
You either earn money or do something with meaning. Yeah, because everybody's just cut out to do those meaningful things. If everybody was an artist, if everybody was a filmmaker, if everybody was a writer, then those people wouldn't be special. And most of the time, those people were driven by things that most men cannot understand. Most human beings cannot understand. They toiled in obscurity, then they died and became famous. That's going to be the legacy of Zubok. I guarantee you, I croak, Zubok's going to blow up as soon as I die. Really, my life is the only thing that's stopping Zubok from blowing up. So hopefully it happens in a timely manner so that my offspring, my seed, my wife, and my children can can benefit from it. Tarami says, Hagbert says that librarians make fucking bank. Do they make bank? They probably make what, like a solid $60,000 to $100,000 a year at the minimum. Tarami says, yes, that's because everyone wants to do those things with meaning. It's called competition. Good point. Excellent point.
Bullshit jobs in a capitalist society is surprising because it goes against the primary goal of any company, to earn as much money as possible.
Efficiency is priority number one, people, because waste is a thief.
But perhaps one reason for all these useless jobs is the need to maintain social order. In a way, jobs act as a kind of daycare for adults. As Twitter user Neo_URL wrote, commenting on the Black Lives Matter protests of 2020, I can't help but think about how large a part of people being able to mobilize and protest right now is because of them not being at work, and how the 40
Oh, I guess they must have been very passionate about it then. It wasn't just bored people. They got to insert themselves in something they didn't fucking understand because they had nothing better to do. Hagbert says, my public library starting pay is like $75K. God damn, I'd learn the Dewey Decimal System for that. Prophet says, sometimes I forget people have like normal, shitty, soul-crushing office job. I'm blessed and cursed. Trami says, making money is a goal of the corporation. I wish they'd stop pretending it's the only goal. I agree with you.
40-plus hour work week leaves most people for no time for political participation, and how that's kind of the point. Bad jobs, meanwhile, present more severe and immediate problems than the angst of bullshit jobs. They can be humiliating, physically and mentally taxing, with criminally low wages.
If we're gonna give them our day, we need to have enough to cover our basic necessities.
I love the movie because it just says, like, if you try hard, you will find success in a company, but trying hard is actually the enemy. You're actually a traitor if you put effort in to move up in a company. Like, that's the subtext of that movie. When it's not literally reading from a fucking social studies book at you. Like, that's what that movie's about. I mean, yeah, I understand. A lot of worker exploitation, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But the subtext, the core of it, what's at the bottom of that movie, sorry to bother you, is that if you try hard at a company and you work your way up, you're a traitor to the people that decided not to. As if they have no agency or choice or anything. Some people just like to subsist. Some people just like that steady paycheck because it gives them that work-life balance. They can just kind of go in, clock out, go home.
This terrible state of affairs became especially obvious during early COVID pandemic lockdowns, when only
Trami brings up a point. I have been rebuked by colleagues multiple times for working, quote unquote, too much, i.e., it makes them look bad. Yes, you'll see that a lot. You'll see that a lot. Ask Big Paul. Ask Big Paul about that.
only essential workers had to put themselves at risk to go into work. And the situation revealed that many of those jobs society actually needs to run pay the lowest. People working for minimum wage can't expect a comfortable retirement or really any kind of financial security, living paycheck to paycheck with a single medical emergency or unlucky mishap enough to put them on the street. As Twitter user Pickwick put it, so when did if you work full-time you should be able to comfortably afford shelter, food, and utilities become an extreme leftist belief? The writer Charles Bukowski, who worked grueling blue-collar jobs for decades before meeting a benefactor who supported his art, once said, "They never pay the slaves enough so they can get free, just enough so they can stay alive and come back to work." The idea of modern work as slavery.
And you gotta, I will totally admit, right? Like that is a reality for a lot of people. But it's not just your job that does it. It's every aspect of your life that almost feels like it's conspiring to keep you in the position you're in. All the time. Every aspect. I think about this a lot when it comes to like my interactions with the police. Like I'm not a criminal element. I've never done anything seriously wrong. But my God, when it comes to traffic violations, even though I have like no record at all, they will throw the book at me. They'll throw the book at me, and there's no consideration about how that's going to like ruin my life for 6 months. And it's very annoying. There is a lack of humanity in some of these systems, for sure. And I think those things are worthy to address. But throwing the baby out with the bathwater because there are problems, I think these people, it's like short-sightedness. They have it too good. They don't think about anything of their lives and where the things come from. All the things that make their lives workable, worth living, fun, interesting. Nobody thinks about that. Nobody thinks about what it takes to produce those things.
Is a prominent theme in Boots Riley's Sorry to Bother You.
So wait, are you telling me you sell slave labor to companies over the phone?
The company that hires Cassius Green as a telemarketer runs an initiative called Worry Free, which sells a barely disguised form of slavery as a wonderful career opportunity that takes all the anxiety out of life.
You're guaranteed employment and housing for life. Stop worrying and get worry free.
Yeah, but isn't this just communism? Isn't this their end game? Isn't this the end game for a lot of these people? Is to actually have this very system? It's like you don't got to worry about food. You don't got to be worried about housing. They're also just describing China in a lot of cases.
Worry-free living quarters are state-of-the-art. The worry-free food is to die for.
Perhaps the only redeeming quality of bad jobs is that, unlike bullshit jobs, they're at least useful to society, so they cause less guilt and rumination. In 1999's Office Space, Peter's friend, who's a construction worker, is less mentally tortured than Peter. In the end, Peter also ends up working construction and enjoys that manual.
Yeah, but he's also like kind of a moron. He's also kind of like an idiot. Truthfully, truth be told.
Labor allows him to actually see the product of his work. But ultimately, both bad jobs and bullshit jobs compromise employees' humanity. In Sorry to Bother You, the idea of workers being robbed of their humanity takes an absurd turn to the literal.
A chemical change to make humans stronger, more obedient, more durable, and therefore more efficient and profitable.
As Bukowski wrote, what hurts is the steadily diminishing humanity of those fighting to hold jobs they don't want. But
he must have said that in between beating the shit out of his wife or his girlfriends. He must have said that in between like being a drunk and beating up his girlfriends, even on tape. You should check out the Bukowski documentary. There's a documentary about him. I think it was like the early 2000s came out. 1,000%. He's just beating the shit out of his girlfriends. Hagbert says, I think I could make that happen with $1 million.
But fear the alternative worse. People simply empty out. They are bodies with fearful and obedient minds. These lines mirror the classic visual aesthetic we see in cinema about modern work, such as dystopian imagery of rows upon rows of deadened, soulless drones toiling away mindlessly because thinking would make their situation unbearable. In Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times, the hero struggles to survive in a newly industrialized world. At his job, the workers move in sync with the machines they're operating, like they're one and the same thing. The same is true of 1927's Metropolis, in which the workers move in sync with the machinery in a weird dance, as if they're part of the city's infrastructure. In the later half of the 20th century, films about office jobs focus on the imagery of the cubicle as a visual metaphor for the way modern work destroys individuality.
Human beings were not meant to sit in little cubicles staring at computer screens all day.
Every human is shut into a tiny box that is just like every other box, and rows of them stretch towards the horizon. Describing the employees of such jobs, Bukowski writes, the color leaves the eye, the voice becomes ugly, and the body, the hair, the fingernails. The color palette of movies about contemporary office jobs echoes this, featuring muted, desaturated gray or bluish tones. The unflattering fluorescent light makes the characters' features ugly and sickly looking. Just as the workers of early industrial jobs resemble cogs in the machines they operate, the workers of office jobs resemble the weak, flickering gray screens they stare at.
No, I wouldn't say I have a passion for it.
Yeah, they all look like vegans. They all look like vegans. Travis says, what were we made for? Explain that if you're going to make statements like that. All right, it's an ever evolving process. I mean, you could have said that about like people that were working on farms or people that were serfs. They'd be like, we weren't designed for this.
For HR.
I mean, I'm not suggesting that these are like healthy, good environments that people aren't mistreated or abused or taken advantage of, because they clearly are. They clearly are. It's not a happy thing, right? But there is more to it than the simplistic view that this video, I guess, decides that they're going to use movies to illustrate it. Like some of the movies they're showing, they're not even showing like the point of the movie. I mean, because if you watch Office Space, for instance, right? This guy and this guy, old Michael Bolton over here, they stay working there because it just isn't really that bad. They stay working in the same kind of industry. And we've let go of all the drama that happened before.
All these visuals seem to say this work is literally sucking the life out of these people and steadily making them less human.
Jim. Yes, Jim. Workplace resistance. Travis is right. It's not that there are no issues with the modern employer-employee relationship. Hagbert says Initech has a good pension plan.
Among the TV and film characters that resist work, there are several distinct subtypes. The first type is the delinquent, immature slacker. These are usually young professionals who are distinguished by their profound lack of ambition.
I'm not really...
Yes, and it mirrors reality. It mirrors how most young people get involved in anything. You kind of don't care about it because you don't have much of anything. You haven't earned things, like you haven't bought a house. Maybe you don't have your own car, etc. You don't have a family. You don't have a wife.
Cool with the amount of responsibility I have now. So if you wanted to promote me down a peg, I'd be cool for that.
What makes these overgrown children-esque characters so fun to watch is that they find ingenious ways of making their terrible jobs work for them. They turn everything into a game.
You're literally making paper airplanes out of police reports right now.
Well, how am I supposed to get it into that garbage can?
Or just use their time at work to do whatever they feel like doing.
Alana?
What time is it?
Were you just sleeping with your eyes open?
In earlier times, these slackers might have been framed in a negative light, but now they're portrayed as aspirational. This speaks to the way millennials and Gen Zers are...
Are they aspirational, or are they things that, like, you understand, like, on some gutter, because you remember what it's like to feel that way? But is that how you want to be, like, as you progress through life? Like, their lives, if you were to go watch, like, even Broad City, like, if you go look at their lives outside of where they work, like, they're not great lives. They have no purpose. They have nothing. Relationship problems, instability.
Are disillusioned in the career ladder. The carrots of future promotions and raises don't motivate them anymore because in the current economic climate, these promises end up often being false. As David_Moscrop tweeted, every time I read some weekend column about a boomer struggling to retire on $100,000 a year and a multi-million-dollar home, I'm reminded that my retirement plan is to die in the climate wars. But there are limitations to the immature slackers' anti-work philosophy. Though their personal rebellion and don't care attitude is satisfying, it's not necessarily a solution that works in the long term for their benefit.
What's a 401k?
I'm glad you asked. Basically, it's a retirement plan, so you can...
No, never mind. I totally thought it was a laser.
And their actions don't really address the systemic problems either. The second type of anti-work character is the workplace saboteur. Whereas the slacker just doesn't care at all about their work.
What is this? How long is this fucking video?
These characters disagree with their jobs on a philosophical level and express their rebellion in more subtle ways. For Ron Swanson of Parks and Rec, government work is antithetical to his libertarian values.
Am I interrupting something important?
Impossible. I work for the government.
Ron is enthusiastic about his own hobbies and a hard worker, but at the Parks and Rec department, his only goal is to stall government work on principle.
I like saying no. It lowers their enthusiasm.
When antisocial April joins forces with him, they form the perfect workplace sabotage team.
I'll make sure you don't have to go to any meetings. If anyone comes to see you, I'll scare them away.
Wait, April, if you had to choose between these two ties...
You're hired.
The Office's Jim Halpert might seem like one of the slacker characters, but he actually fits best into the workplace saboteur category because his dislike of his work stems from a philosophical place. Jim's pranks on...
What happens to that character throughout the show?
Dwight are actually an expression of his workplace philosophy. Sabotaging Dwight, who takes the job intensely seriously.
Once in a while, I'll take a long lunch. A siesta. Time thief.
He doesn't take his job seriously. He doesn't take the job seriously. That's not what Dwight's character represents. He's a lackey. He's desperate for attention. He's desperate for validation. It really doesn't matter where he works or what he's doing. It's about his social status. Have you guys ever watched The Office?
Time thief. Fire him.
Represents Jim's opposition towards the attitudes encouraged by modern corporate work.
Yawn. 4 seconds.
What are you doing?
Oh, you had said that you don't do anything personal during work time, so I'm just making sure.
The third type of anti-work character is the Workplace Anarchist. These are the characters who are brave enough or crazy enough to overtly call out or take action to dismantle the BS of corporate work. Peter in Office Space is reminiscent of the influential Herman Melville character of Bartleby, a law clerk who, whenever he's asked to do something, responds, "I'd prefer not to." While this behavior confounds everyone around Bartleby, from a certain perspective, it's actually rational. Maybe doing nothing is better than doing something pointless.
I did absolutely nothing, and it was everything that I thought it could be.
The narrator in Fight Club confronts his boss in a much more aggressive manner. He turns the corporate world's tools of manipulation back on itself, using the workplace norms and conventions typically used to exploit the employee to manipulate the management.
Thank God. Please don't hit me again.
Amy Jellicoe, the hero...
Remember when people were trying to, ban Fight Club? What a weird world we live in. It's come around no, well, actually...
Heroine of the short-lived cult HBO series Enlightened initially adopts a less confrontational, more proactively passionate approach. After a mental breakdown, she returns to work convinced that she can single-handedly change the entire structure of the company to make it less harmful to the world.
I just wanted to ask you if you had a chance to look at that research that I gave you.
Honestly, Amy, no.
When she realizes that she can't get what she wants directly, she formulates a plot to destroy the entire company from the inside out.
I guess Abaddon is paying off government officials. It's huge.
While this category seems the most influential or admirable in terms of actually trying to take down the system, it's hard not to notice that the Workplace Anarchist characters are often mentally ill or unbalanced. Peter is under the spell of a hypnotist. The narrator in Fight Club suffers from some kind of split personality.
So they're trying to stop you from being the anarchist. Okay. All right, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. Hagbert says the CCP gave Fight Club a new happy ending. I am just happy that Tyler found the help he needed. I'm just happy he found it, you know? So this is not, speaking of the CCP, I got this video about China's anti-work movement called Lying Flat. I am not familiar with this, but let's check it out. Apparently in China, they're also rebelling. Or those that are still alive, not being shot or welded into their houses or whatever. So let's see what this guy's got to say.
It's no secret that anti-work in the United States is becoming really, really popular.
My God, we just got quiet videos. I don't know if it's my computer. It's probably OBS being a dick.
Anti-work is a movement and also a subreddit. The subreddit has over 1.6 million people following it. It's the concept that work is not very fair anymore. Not a fair handshake. That people are asked to do too much and get too little in return. That employers don't care about the employees, the hours they work, and the suffering they do. It's all about the bottom line and making the rich richer and not really sharing it.
Oh, no fucking way. Thank you, Brainiac. Trami says, taking down the system involves making thousands of people unemployed, apparently. Oh, we don't need to deal with the displacement of workers or entire industries of people. Just don't do it because it's wrong.
Now, this is an interesting idea. And the fact that it's getting a lot of popularity behind it adds a lot of credibility to it. It's actually grown so much at this point that Goldman Sachs has viewed it as a long-term risk. Now, up until now, I always thought this was a United States issue. I live in the USA, and, wealth inequality is a problem here. It's more of a problem in the United States than it is in Europe. However, I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. Today, I want to talk to you about another anti-work-like movement. And
Trami says, or it's an indication that people will complain about the hand they've been dealt in life, no matter what. But I don't know. No, I think everybody. It's just baked into the cake of the human experience. We always want more. We always want better. That's a real thing, right? And we will always find a way, especially in times of opulence. We will find something to complain about, that something is wrong. We're not encouraged to appreciate the things that we have. We're only told, but can't you have more? Couldn't it be better? Shouldn't people just give you shit? I would like to encourage people, even if that was that's the paradigm. Oh, you want more, you want better. How do you make that work for yourself? How do you do that? That's like we watched that TikTok lady. That's kind of what she was getting at, this idea that know your rights, know what you're supposed to be doing, know how to be better. At least that's positive. At least it goes in a positive direction.
A different country, a country I didn't expect to see this in, China. China has its own anti-work movement over there, but it's a little different. Every movement is a little different, with different ideas, different philosophies, and different complaints. But I will say the fundamental root is always the same. Work. People not getting a fair pay for what they have to do. Not having the quality of life that they feel like they deserve for what the amount of time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears they put into what they do. Now, China is the country having the issue here, and it's not necessarily a surprise. China has a concept called the 996. 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. That's how many hours you should be working. That's 72 hours if you want to do the math. 72 hours a week. And this has actually been echoed by CEOs like Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba. This idea of working hard to get what you want is the way forward. However,
and some people can. Some people can thrive in that kind of system. I mean, I do not endorse the 996 because I do think that would be a little much for the average person, right? Because that is about productivity. That's about what you produce for a company. That seems a little much, right? But that is not reflective of most people's lives, I would say. Even people that don't like what they're doing. Shit, I remember I worked briefly as a pipeliner. That was definitely the way. That was definitely the way. It actually was worse than that. It was like 4:30 in the morning till 12:30 at night. And you got like hot 4 hours of sleep, and you woke up and you did it all over again. That's some miserable shit. But you're paid well, so you don't really care. Prophet says 9 to 9, 6 days a week. These people are trying to keep up with Butcher Pete or something. I know, because you're paying the cost of like working for yourself. The actual toil. And I hope that it produces something for yourself and for your family. That kind of effort and work, and that's what it takes. But that's what it takes when you actually want to do something for yourself. This is not what these people are talking about. These people are talking about not doing anything and being given things. Trami says, so what's the alternative to working hard? I'm not suggesting there's basically slavery in a lot of places, but how much is the correct amount of work in a week? That's a good question. And obviously it's different for everybody, and it depends what you want out of life.
People started getting sick of it. And thus we have to go to a online blog post from Luo Haozong back in April 2021. This blog post in English was titled, Lying Flat is Justice. And lying flat, Tongping, is this idea of, hey, you should not be trying to stand rigid, working hard, working long hours, working the 996. Because when you stand up, you're growing. You get harvested. You get cut down. Somebody takes all of your work, this growth, and takes it for themselves. Just like a plant. But if you were lying flat to the ground, and that sickle from above comes to cut down all of your growth, well, you're lying flat. You dodge the sickle. You get to continue your life unencumbered, stolen. You're not stolen from. The people above were not able to take from you. In the case of Liu Haozong, what he did is he quit his factory job and went back home and just started working odd jobs, valuing his time, doing what he wanted. He just fed himself and moved on. Now, this post, Lying Flat was Justice, done back in April 2021, got a lot of traction. It was very popular. To the point where
very, very popular where? The Chinese government come and find this guy? Because they probably would. Trami says, get to continue your life lying down at least. You should be well rested.
Chinese Communist Party had to censor it. They had to have Chinese communist officials and media sources come out and say, this is evil and wrong. The Communist Party had to go so far as to remove online merchandise that's had the words saying lying flat and other merchandise supporting this idea. That's insane. It's fascinating. There's a popular slogan for the movement as well. I think that summarizes it very, very nicely. Don't buy property. Don't buy a car. Don't get married. Don't have children. And don't consume.
There it is. That's the end game. Subsist. Do as little as humanly possible to exist. Travis says, so far, they took down a Redbubble store.
This rejection of consumerism kind of caught me off guard. Why? I used to live in China. While Beijing and Shanghai have plenty of beautiful districts with tons of people with tons of money, there was still a lot of poverty, both in the cities and in the countryside of China. However, we're seeing the popularity of lying flat is not just a city or two or some middle class people. The reason this is getting shut down is because it is popular all around the country. And people are waking up to this idea that the consumerism isn't worth it anymore, that the 996 isn't worth it, that the deal of getting more stuff isn't worth it in favor of living a life you want.
Yeah, if that's the life you want. If you want to live a life of just being like kind of subsisting and hanging out, and I suppose there's a way you could make that happen. Sure. I mean, your quality of life, your quality of living, relatively speaking, will go down. But yeah, sure, you can waste away in reading manga and jerking off and taking walks. Sure, why not?
The Chinese government is terrified of this because it goes against this idea of innovation, pushing forward, working hard so that China can get ahead. But people are looking at that and saying, okay, the Chinese government does well. But what about me? I just keep getting harvested. I am not going anywhere. I'm not getting to spend time with family and friends. I'm not getting time to explore hobbies. I just work my 9 to 9, 6 days a week, slaving away in a factory. But like, is that what life's all about? Is this sacrifice really worth it for China? But what about me? Shouldn't I work for me? And shouldn't I get to do what I want? To the point where this slogan, right? Don't buy a property. Don't need to save for a house. Don't get a car. Don't even get married. Don't have kids. Just don't consume.
Yeah, just opt out of life. Opt out of the system.
Be totally free. Reject the system in its entirety. And just go live your life. The fact that this is going on in China, a developing nation, to me is setting off alarm bells. Something is wrong right now in the world. United States, when I read about anti-work in the United States and started following the subreddit, I looked at it and said, okay, we got some late stage capitalism going on. United States, we've had a run of wealth inequality. Maybe we need to push it in a bit, do a little bit more for the common person. But this is becoming a worldwide thing. And China is nowhere near developed, nowhere near what I would call late stage capitalism. Something is fundamentally wrong right now in the world with the trade-off between work, time, and money. Somewhere.
Yeah, because China is more akin to fascism, which is the merging of government and corporation. So that's probably why you see that, buddy.
Somewhere along the way, the world's starting to feel like they're not getting a fair handshake. This is alarming, and I have a feeling it's only going to get worse from here. If you like today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe below.
Oh, that's okay. I won't be subscribing to you. Well, let's see, though. Let's see what else he's got. What else does this guy talk about? What else does this do? Plain Talk John, 480 subs. The anti-work news disaster. Finding lasting happiness, how minimalism lets you focus on what you love. Sure. It's the kind of things that work when you just have to worry about yourself. All right, we'll watch that. Let's check that one out.
It's time we talk
about not doing anything. It's time.
About minimalism, because it's really, really important to know. On the channel, we've talked about things like lying flat in China, this anti-work movement where you spend very little money and just literally try to survive. We've talked about FIRE. Make as much money as you can, spending as little as possible so you can put all the money into passive investments and just live out the life you deserve. We've talked about a lot of different strategies here. Anti-work as well. This growing movement, not really necessarily a strategy is attached to it, but this resentment towards the current working structure and the feeling that people aren't getting their fair shake. However, I want to talk about minimalism today because it's another one of these ideas that can help you improve your life. And improving your life is really good. It's really good. Do you feel like you're really making
It's really good, guys. Improving your life. Good. Good stuff.
Most of life? Do you? I don't think any of us would be here if you felt like you were having the 10 out of 10 life you deserve. Let's talk about another strategy, minimalism. Let's start with what is minimalism here. So, reading the first paragraph. So what is this minimalism thing? It's quite simple. To be a minimalist, you must live with less than 100 things. You can't own a car or home or a television. You can't have a career. You must live in an exotic, hard to pronounce places all over the world. You must start a blog. You can't have children. And you must be a young white male from a privileged background. Now, obviously, they're joking, as is their first line, and I hope you guys picked up on the sheer ridiculous.
Are they joking, though? Are they joking? That seems pretty accurate.
Ridiculousness of how much they wrote here. I remember reading this and being like, what are they saying? Lamau? And then they clarified that they are joking. They're joking, guys. But people often dismiss it. And I actually kind of appreciate this, where people are like, oh, FIRE is just for wealthy people. Lying flat is just for lazy people. Anti-work is just for people who don't know how to work hard. Minimalism is just for the ultra rich who can be, do fine and all of that fun stuff. Minimalism is actually a tool that can assist you in finding freedom. I think strategy is a lot better than the word tool here. But at the end of the day, just like that anti-work mentality, lying flat mentality, the FIRE mentality, minimalism is another mentality, another strategy that you can apply to better your life. The core problem that minimalism solves is the following. Quote, today's problem seems to be the meaning we assign to our stuff. We tend to give too much meaning to our things, often forsaking our health, our relationships, our passion, our personal growth, and our desire to contribute beyond ourselves. This is the core of it.
Our desire to contribute beyond ourselves. Do not be a productive member of society. Only worry about your immediate needs. Wow. If that's not a way to just have us go careening off the cliff, as a culture, as a people, just stop everything, just go careening off the cliff. Nothing will ever be done again. Trami says there's phrases, freedom from overwhelm, in that text. Good grammaring there, guys.
Now, there are some assumptions built in that statement, but I'm going to distill it even further. Minimalism is all about making sure you're giving the appropriate amount of time and effort and energy towards things of meaning. And that includes things like spending money on things.
Yeah, but what does that... All right, let's see if he explains it, but what does that mean? That means something different to everybody. Everybody has a different conceptualization of like what spending time is worth, what spending money is worth, what do you derive meaning from?
Things of meaning. If you own 3 hammers, you probably didn't appropriately purchase them. There probably is no need for 3 hammers. You probably need 1. That extra money you spent on those additional hammers, well, you worked for that money, right? To get money, you trade in time. We all do it at different wages, but you do make that trade. Minimalism is great because what it helps you do is acknowledge that value. To say, is this valuable in my life? And how valuable is it really? How much time should I be spending on this? And then cut it away if it's not. 2 examples come to mind in the business world, as well as cleaning, that have similar feelings. In the business world, one of the smartest things you can do as a business owner is identify clients that don't make much bang for the buck. Not in terms of dollar for dollar, but rather how much time and energy is it taking relative to what they're bringing in. If somebody might be a big client, however, they are very angry all the time, they're always calling you, taking up a bunch of your time, it might literally not be worth it. Instead of spending all that time and energy on there, go find better clients and let them go. In the world of cleaning, Maria...
Jesus Christ. Prophet says, yeah, you only ever need one of any type of tool, said the man who has built nothing. Hagbert says, I'm literally sitting next to a rack of 6 different hammers, each with a different purpose. Yeah, they have... Somebody like this has no idea about actually doing anything and why you might want more than one of the same thing or things that have different purposes.
Marie Kondo became very famous with this idea of throwing out things that do not spark joy. So if you have something in your house and you see it and you're like, oh, I can't believe that's there, you get rid of it. The idea in minimalism...
Sure, everybody does. Everybody downsizes the things that they have relative to where they live, the size of their house, etc. Though if you want a big house, it requires some effort. Let me tell you.
It's the ideas behind minimalism share the same kind of ideas in that business example as well as Marie Kondo. Find things that are good in your life and keep them, and don't give more time and energy and money towards things that don't. This can appear in different ways. In the example here, for one person, the blogists, the minimalist friends, one person has a wife and 6 kids. One person has a career they enjoy, a family loves, and a house and car in suburbia. Another one owns just 51 specific things. You probably own more than 51 pieces of clothing. This person only owns 51 things and travels all over the world. One person lives in a tiny house and is completely car free. The key part here is all those people can be minimalist, but they define it in their own ways. Going back to this value,
almost like it does, like what you're saying is completely arbitrary. Dear God. Tarami says the only reason we downsize is so we can get new things to fill it back up. Downsize in terms of clutter, that is. Yeah, exactly. We all do that. Everybody does that. My wife and I do that a couple times a year. Hagber says, the jerk off 6 Sigma process. That's great if you don't make a living repairing things for a living. That's true.
The awareness of value, what you're assigning it to things, and how valuable is it really? If you approach things from this perspective of value, you can basically get rid of the life's excesses, and you can focus on what's really important. This can help you eliminate discomfort, reclaim your time because you're not spending it on useless things. Live in the moment. Hey, if you're only surrounded by things you value, you're going to appreciate each moment more. They're going to be
they're just like, have self-control. Have self-control over the things you buy and consume, and you'll be good. My God. I don't know what the hell this video is. Okay, so, because some of this was Shadow. Shadow produced by Big Paul. So we'll see what happens. Hagbert says, hoarders for life. Trami says, I mean, not buying things you do not truly want is excellent advice. I agree. Everybody could use a little less bullshit. A little less stuff. Prophet says, Caitlin used to spout this minimalist shit and would question why we even need a shed until we started homesteading. Well, it's easy to say you don't need something until you need it. Honestly, right? So this next video is called Fox News Anti-Work Interview, What the Left Can Learn. So I think this is a TYT video. It's like an analysis of that guy going on that program.
Person who operates this anti-work.
Oh my God, like what is going I think OBS is being an asshole and not
group, Doreen Ford. All right, so Doreen, why do you like the idea of being home, not working, but still getting paid by corporate America? So Doreen, you're not being forced to work. This isn't slave labor. You've applied for a job. You've agreed to the terms and conditions of the employment. And, you can walk away from that job at any time and quit. So what do you think is like a good work day? How many hours is a solid work day in your ideal society? What do you do, Doreen?
I'm a dog walker.
A dog walker. Okay.
Yes.
And how
how
old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure, I'm 30.
You're 30. Okay. And is there something you want to do besides being a dog walker? Do you aspire to do anything more than dog walking, or is that kind of your pinnacle?
So Fox News did this interview with one of the moderators from the r/anti-work subreddit. Now for starters, I just want to say that this person didn't really say anything that was like out there. It's clear at this point that the Fox host was just being needlessly mean to them. Because like, for example, this person is a
needlessly mean by asking them basic questions.
Dog walker. Dog walking is a perfectly fine job. In fact, it's actually like a real job that involves like a ton of physical labor, and managing dogs can be a lot. It can be very stressful. Meanwhile, Jesse Waters is a Fox News host who's making tons of money and has an entire team of professionals that are there to make him look good, both in terms of writers and in terms of people like hair and makeup. Their whole job is just to make sure that Jesse Waters looks good on camera and sounds good no matter what he's saying. So him coming after this person for dog walking when he's like a news host, like, come on, buddy. But there are really two big points that I think are important to take away from this interview. The first one is understanding why Fox News invites people onto their show, especially why they invite left-wingers onto their show. Basically, the left-wingers they invite on their show end up falling into one of three categories. The first category are
retarded.
People who are just your average person who care about the world and have some ideas about it. And Fox News responds by pulling the rug out of under their feet, attacking them as an individual, and basically talking as fast as they can and asking as many questions as possible to confuse that person and try to make them look bad. If the things that they're saying sound fine, then they just turn to attacking random characteristics of the...
Well, who's more to blame here? Who the fuck goes onto Fox News to talk to somebody of this persuasion, thinking that they're not going to be ambushed with difficult questions? Even if they're unfair, even unfair questions. Like, how are you not, in some respect, prepared for that?
This person. And in this instance, it was attacking the fact that this person is a dog walker, which once again is a very normal job. The second category of people are people who publicly claim to be leftists and do so for the viewership and the clout, but aren't actually leftists and haven't bothered to study really any of the theory. We're talking about people who run around calling themselves leftists and spread like anti-vax propaganda or spreading like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. These people who are just incredibly grifty, and really they exist.
Is he talking about Sam Cedar or this other guy?
Off of being cringe and then other people covering how cringe they are. That's how they get their attention. That's how they get the money that they earn from views. And then when those people go on Fox News, they're sort of both part of that game. Whether or not that person knows it or not, their job is to show up and be cringe so that the Fox News can say, oh, look, the left is very cringe. Sometimes the leftists that they bring on know that that's what their job is, and sometimes they're just doing that accidentally. Now, the third category are people like this.
Well, it works by you taking their dirty money. It's as easy as that. I mean, you are a millionaire funded by billionaires. That's what you are. And I'm glad you now finally jumped the bandwagon, you know, of people like Bernie Sanders and AOC. But you're not part of the solution, Mr. Carlson. You're part of the problem, actually.
They're the people who show up and never get invited ever again. Why do they never get invited ever again?
Because they made some sort of vague overtures towards something that they don't explain. Trauma says, quote unquote, this is going to be a fair and unbiased interview.
Because they say the things that you're not supposed to say on Fox News. They point out the fact that these Fox News hosts are pretty much just millionaires defending billionaire. That these Fox News hosts really are just scapegoating marginalized people instead of talking about the real structural problems that exist in the United States of America. Their whole job is to distract and disorient people as to what exactly the problem is. And so if they have somebody that comes on and points that out, then they really don't want to air those interviews. And they will never invite those people on ever again. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you're randomly getting invited on a Fox News, my first advice would be to not go on. Because if they're inviting you on, that means they think that they can get something of value from you, and you should immediately...
Yeah, but everybody thinks they're smarter. Everybody thinks they're smarter, and they're going to be the one that can handle it. And also, some people just like being on TV. It's flattering. They're like, oh, I got invited on television, on cable television. Oh my goodness. We've had a rule at ZooBox for a long time, which is if anything were to ever happen, if we were to ever get in trouble for anything we were to ever say or do, we do not take media interviews. We don't do it. We don't do it.
Immediately be suspicious about that. But if you're not willing to take that advice, then at least understand that your goal when you go in should be to not get invited back, which means calling out these Fox News hosts for exactly who they are, and don't really worry about...
Hagbard says, send me on. Hagbard, I will contact you. If that day should ever arise, you will be the representative of ZooBox. We'll send you on.
Paying too much attention to the questions that they're asking you. Get your points across. Make sure that people know what you want them to hear, and then make sure that you're pointing out the grift that these Fox News hosts are doing. Of course, you're not going to get invited again, but that's okay. If you get invited to Fox News, they're not going to invite you again if you did a good job advocating for these leftist positions, as a general rule. We have to remember, especially before we criticize this person that did this interview, it is incredibly stressful.
Travis says, let's just send Hagbard and he can talk about his tools for 90 minutes. That would work. Like, listen, check this thing out. I got 6 hammers, okay? All of them beautiful in their own way.
To be alive in front of millions of people. And of course, there's a certain degree of awkwardness and uncomfortableness that happens when you're not used to being on camera, and then all of a sudden you are in front of a ton of people. So really, the person that did this interview, I think, did a fine job, or as fine job as anybody could do that doesn't have a ton of media training or experience. Now, the second takeaway from this, I think, is also really important, because there are some critiques to be said about what this person said in this interview. I think there are a few points where they miss some things that you could.
Travis says, so how do you defend that racist remark you made? Hagbard. Well, so I have this framing hammer.
I'd say if you had a deeper understanding of like leftist theory. And to that, I think it's this big problem in the United States where people are trapped by Cold War propaganda. A lot of Americans who consider themselves leftists actively reject the notion.
This here is a 22-ounce ball pen. Good for chasing metal and some stamping.
Of studying the works of other leftist leaders in the world, because the Red Scare has led people to believe that they're just, these scary, purely evil monsters, when in reality, they're human beings, and they had a lot of experience actually building states that were built off of leftist principles. So it makes sense to study the writings of people like Lenin and Mao, to study the history of Fidel Castro and Thomas Sankara, and understand why they said what they said, and what the general structures of the theory are. So when somebody comes up to you and asks you, well, what is the...
My fucking God. Go read a bunch of propaganda and then, take away, oh, wow, well, maybe what they're saying is okay. Now that I'm so far removed from it, I can't possibly conceptualize the pain that those things caused. Oh, well, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, I saw somebody, there was a post that somebody made, I think it might have been on Twitter or something, and they're like 100 million dead from communism, and...
the ideal amount of work that we should be doing in society. You can reply with, well, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need, which means that our working hours should really be determined by ourselves and our own level of comfort and ability.
Wow. This is on TYT Network. They've just gone full commie over there. Wow. Hagbard says, bird eat crop, kill all bird.
And that we should make sure that everybody has their basic necessities taken care of, no matter how much or how little work they're capable of. And you can see from that how just having a little bit...
Define capable, buddy. Travis says, Shaun is impressed. Well, I'm impressed that it's just out there like this, honestly. Usually people kind of like, hide their cards a little bit better.
Of Marxist theory can really help your arguments for yourself. Even if you're not a Marxist, understanding the theory is important to understanding these ideas more broadly. So to all the people who have been brought into the left by the movement of Bernie Sanders and AOC...
Must have been really tough for Karl Marx to write all this stuff while he was living on his friend's couch.
I would just highly encourage you to look in the history of leftist political leaders and try to understand how these general theories might be relevant to the United States today. So that if you ever are in a position like this, you will know exactly what to say.
This is Ben Corolla with Rebel Headquarters. You can catch my show Galaxy.
And I think communism fucking rocks, dude. Travis says, the infinite worthiness of every individual, except the ones that don't fit in. Exactly, because these people have no problem with finding the interlopers, right? Finding the people that don't measure up to their conceptualization of what it means to be a good person or to have worked hard or to have done something. None of that stuff is they don't consider any of those types of things, right? They have their own litmus test, just like any system has a litmus test. It's fucking obnoxious that they tried to suggest otherwise. Okay, so this is a very low view video, low subscriber. Solar Arbara r/anti-work, an ex-grocery store worker's testimony. My goodness. Let's see how the volume is.
So I wanted to share
Another very low volume video. My God.
my anti-work story. I was inspired mainly because of the posts that I've seen on anti-work and just the stories that I've been hearing in the news. Also just the Great Resignation. I feel like
I was reading The Atlantic and they said that this is something that's happening.
Stories told through the point of view of the workers is extremely important. So I wanted to add my 2 cents to this whole thing. So like most college students,
Hagbert says, this person sounds like a Muppet. A little bit, yeah. Almost kind of looks like one too.
I worked and went to school. I worked at a grocery store. And I was there for 3 years before the pandemic started. I started out as a bagger, so people obviously bag our groceries. So with being a bagger, I mean, I wasn't earning that much. I needed to earn more money, right? And I was desperately seeking another position within my store with better
pay and more responsibility and more stakes in the game. Oh my God. Almost as if, those things matter.
Hey, so I thought, well, bakery seems to be what I'd be most comfortable with. I didn't want to work in any other department. And then I moved to the bakery department. So in the beginning, I was usually like a closer, which wasn't too bad. It wasn't that great either. But I would also have to bake at least once a week. And what that means in the bakery world is you have to show up around like 3 or 4 a.m. But for me, it was 3 a.m. If you ever go to a grocery store and see the bakery department and like all the fresh made stuff, all of that is done in the morning by a baker, but sometimes by several bakers. But in my case, it was only me, only one person.
So she's like, oh, if you're just a complete moron that thinks things just appear out of the ether, yeah, people have to show up. This has been a thing for bakers since fucking the beginning of time. You want to go buy donuts at 6 a.m, somebody has to go and make them. Oh my God. Trima says what she's uncomfortable with. Yeah, comfort doesn't pay. Yeah, you have to try. You have to actually take on responsibility. Hagbert says, that's it. I'm starting an OnlyFans. OnlyFans.com/Hagbard's Hammer. Trima says a major reason I'm well paid is because I answer the phone at 4 a.m. to fix shit for clients, and few others will. 1,000%, my friend. Prophet says, thank you for pointing out that bakers have literally worked at 3 a.m. since the dawn of food. It's called service, you dumb cunt.
So I would be there at 3 a.m. prepping all that bread that you might buy. And yeah, that was extremely hard getting used to. I didn't mind it at first. I didn't like it, but I didn't necessarily mind it. However, as time went on and then the pandemic came, it started to become just horrendous. So as you can imagine, with the amount of work that is expected, right? One would think that there would be like a team of bakers, of people, prepping this stuff. But with my experience and the experience of this chain that I worked at, it's only one person that is responsible for all of that. And if you don't get all of that stuff out on time by the time the store opens, I would be reprimanded, not just by my manager, but by by the customers because, you know, they would be angry about where are the bagels or where are the donuts or anyway. So that happened.
Yeah, she's not wrong. Like, there's a lot of expectations, sometimes unfairly, on people that, especially people that have to open stores. I used to work in a place for a very short period of time. I worked at an airport at like a pizza place, basically, but they also wanted to have breakfast. So you had to get there at like 4 in the morning, and you had to make like breakfast pizzas, and you had to make stromboli, and you had to make all this kind of stuff, and you'd have to do it before it opened. And usually you were there by yourself doing it. It's not impossible. It definitely sucks because if other things happen, if you can't get there in time, or the fucking train was running late. This was when I lived in a metropolitan area. It would make your life difficult. 1,000%. Sometimes they don't want to give you the help that you need, etc. But it really isn't the end of the world. It really isn't. Trami says horrendous. You have to elaborate. Trami also says the same expectation she'd have on a store when she comes in at 7 a.m., but breakfast bagels. Yeah, everything is run on a clock when it comes to service industry stuff, and that's just the way it is. Hagbert says, time to make the donuts. Gotta get up early. Old Prophet and Hagbert and Trami, they need their donuts. They need that fuel for the day.
But then the pandemic starts. And now you add that stress of the job itself on top of the uncertainty of what's going to happen, right? And it's at this time, and I noticed that the company that I worked at didn't care for our well-being, you know, the employees, the people who were there. So
your employer didn't, and so didn't most of the fucking world. Well, actually, I take that back. About 10% of the country didn't care for your well-being because it was a pandemic and things are hard, but can I still go get my fucking groceries, please? Can I go get my groceries? Prophet says, I just worked a 24-hour shift. Read that again. A 24-hour shift to hit a deadline for the sisters. It's called service. You can't. 24 hours in 5-degree cold so I could keep my word. You lazy cunt. And they appreciate it, Prophet, and they love it. And that's why you're Butcher Pete, and they're not.
The first few of the months of the pandemic were rough. I mean, the whole thing was.
And by the way, if I knew that you were doing that yesterday, I would have streamed just for you, buddy. I would have streamed just for you. I would have put away my wants and desires, and I would have been there for you, and we could have watched dumb videos until the sun came up. Trami says, you can't be very fast on the uptake if the same job remains stressful for years. It should just be second nature and just happen. Of course, yeah, most of the time, right? As soon as you get into a groove, usually it takes a couple months, everything kind of equalizes out. It becomes second nature. Outside of, like, you know, extenuating circumstances, weather, car trouble, trains, whatever. Outside of that. Prophet says, I figured your kid needed you or some dumb shit. Well, he needs me until about 9 p.m. Until about 9 p.m.
Yes. However, there was this brief period of time in the beginning that the company offered us hazard pay or appreciation pay, as they called it, which was $2 extra an hour of what we were earning, and I was earning 15, so 17. However, that was extremely short-lived. It was only 2 months, I believe. And when they ended it, this was around the time where, like, the administration, as in the government and just, you know, business wanted to open back up, you know, because we need to get this country back on track. The whole thing was happening. So logically, my company jumped on that bandwagon and wanted to open back up, you know, go back to normal as much as we could, is what they said. So they cut our hazard pay, our very, very short-lived hazard pay or appreciation pay, whatever you want to call it. And of course, that left a bitter taste in my mouth because, you know, the pandemic is still happening.
One thing I will say, because so much of the pandemic has been framed by elitist assholes, writers, bloggers, celebrities. Oh, just like get takeout. You can't get takeout for 2 years. Yeah, this is the person that has to do that. This is the person that has to go and do that for you. So I can understand her frustration to a certain degree about being like, well, you just kind of left me out in the cold while you're also telling me it's the end of the fucking world. I can appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? Travis says, where's my Indian buffet? Get those kids, those teens. Where are those teens at? Get those teens out there working, for Christ's sakes.
You know, we kind of need that money. And it was around this time, it was around the summer of that year, that I watched a video by Rational National, or David Dole, which is he's an extremely good source for info. He covered a story about...
Travis says, I kind of love how NIGHTCAP is cyclical. I think, it's just it's like happenstance. You just realize like so many of these things are derived from the same bullshit. Most of it being postmodernism. Most of what we talk about ends up, you could track it back to postmodernist philosophy. It's interesting. Hagbard says, make my bagels, Frank Oz.
One of the CEOs or one of the higher ups of my company. And this is in the context of how the grocery...
She's got 15 more minutes of words. Oh my God, we might have to skip ahead.
Grocery business at large, their profits like went up, because people were buying stuff. So of course, Anyway, the CEO person or man or whatever, basically was bragging about how proud he was that his company like earned all of these profits. Our hazard pay got cut, and this guy's just, celebrating how great he is, how great his company is. And of course, that enraged me. I can't say that I was surprised at it.
Then I took a hot shit on the floor. Showed him.
But still, the fact that like some random rich guy was celebrating about how much money he made off of our labor, mind you, because we were the ones who brought in all that money. And then at the same time, he or the company at large has the audacity to cut our hazard pay or our appreciation pay or whatever you want to call it. So that really, really, really just didn't sit well with me, But like I wasn't going to quit. I needed money, and I was going to go to school in the fall to complete my last semester. For my last semester...
Then do it. You're working a job you don't like so that you can pay for things like school and education to make your life better. Then fucking do it. Travis says, how do you know that? The company made money, but I doubt he went into which products did. Hagbard says, you ever watch Bob's Burgers? This is Tina Belcher, IRL. Yes, I have, and you're right. She does sound and look like an all grown-up Tina Belcher.
Semester of school, I had to go take online classes, of course. I had a full course load. I want to say like 18 units or whatever. And it was my last one, so I had a lot on my plate. I had repeatedly told my manager and the management that I was going to school. That I needed less hours, that they needed to get somebody else. Because I needed to, go to school. I couldn't work and go to school at the same time. And
Yes, you can. I did it. My wife did it. It's totally possible. It sucks. It fucking blows. Fucking blows. But you can totally do it. You can totally do it. Especially working like a grocery store at a bakery. Holy shit. You know, like the downtime you have when you do those things, trust me, I know. I know.
Like the first 2 months of my semester, it was okay. It wasn't that great, but it was okay. They did manage to find someone else, but that was short-lived because this person had to leave. So I had to step in. So for the last 2 most intense months of the semester where, you know, I have to really ground myself in my schoolwork, I had to work a full-time job. And I don't know how I did it. I powered through it. It was...
Okay. You powered through it. You got it done. Animal studies. Now, what did you do? Did you get a job doing that? I hope it was something worth your time. I hope it was worth it.
Awful. And I understand that a lot of people go through this, you know, but I feel like it's been so normalized, you know, going to school and working, and like people just don't really bat an eye about it, and that really bothers me, you know, because the mental toll that takes on someone, not just mental, but the physical.
Trauma says, I've kind of lost where she's going with this. Is this really a fault of the employer? No, it just seems like the fault of circumstance. Just reality, what most people have to deal with. And when you don't like things like this, you try to find ways to better yourself, or try to find a better job, or move up in position, or go to school, which is what she's doing, or she did.
Toll as well on someone is devastating. You know, it's so normalized to like, oh yeah, you work and go to school and you just do adulting. And I feel like as a society, we know that because it's been so normalized, we hardly question it, you know? And if you...
Imagine if this lady had a family. Imagine if she had a family. Imagine if she had kids she had to feed, a mortgage she had to pay. That's clearly not her life. She has a fucking twin-size mattress behind her. I don't say that to be negative or to be overly cruel. I don't. But this is somebody that, like, if all you have to do is worry about yourself, holy shit. If you're over the age of 25, you got it made in the shade, dude.
You do, then you're just a whiner, you know? You're whining, and you need to get over it because this is just how life is. Needless to say, this is happening all during the election, and there was another stressor.
Yeah, that was another stressor. Oh my God, another stressor. The election was another stressor. Oh, what is going to happen to the country? Oh, I better vote for Joe Biden so that I can get paid more. How did that work out for you?
For obvious reasons. So you're dealing with a pandemic, an election, and school.
Well, if you're an illegal immigrant, maybe. I don't know.
For me, and work. And here I was, you know, going after all of that nightmare ended. I was going into 2021 thinking like, okay, well, we have a new administration. They'll take things more seriously than the last one, pandemic-wise, and things will be better. And boy, was I wrong. So work just got worse. We had less people, more work.
Almost like because they gave people money not to work. Oh my God. How do you think you're going to fill those spots? How are you going to fill those positions? If you've given people the opportunity not to fill them, because those jobs suck. Nobody thinks that they don't. Nobody really wants to do it. It's not really anybody's passion. It's either from circumstance or it's a stepping stone or it's something you do while you try to better yourself in different ways. Don't these people have parents? Jesus Christ. Trami says, I mean, she's close to 30 and she's in college for animal studies. I'm sure that's a valid choice and everything, but it doesn't have the ring of a person who wants to get shit done in life. No, somebody like this just wants to subsist and live comfortably and have everything that they've ever thought and desired. They want to be able to go out to eat. They want to be able to have internet. They want to be able to live in a nice place. They want to be able to have, some sort of foam apparatus for their twin mattress.
Was expected of us. It just kept piling on, and there were only so few of us. And it's around this time where I guess the effects of the last year are starting to catch up with me mentally. I somehow compartmentalized everything that had happened to me individually the year before, and now it's starting to come out. And what I mean by that is that I started essentially just losing myself. So basically what my life consisted of was a 40-hour work week, 3 a.m. shifts most of the time.
40-hour work week broke this person. 40-hour work week broke this person. Broke this person. She didn't know how to she had to compartmentalize a 40-hour work week. What a touched fucking life.
So my life was basically work and then sleeping, and that was basically my life for many.
Her life was work and sleeping based off a 40-hour work week. What the fuck?
Months, like the majority of 2021. And one of the reasons that I stayed, obviously, was because I needed money, right? The reason was that I was scared or just not motivated to find a different career path, especially for what I graduated in. I graduated with a bachelor's in sociology.
Oh, good for you. Good luck. Good luck, lady. Good luck, Muppet. I graduated with a bachelor's in sociology. You and 5 billion other people.
So yeah. But I also thought that...
And she wasn't motivated. She wasn't motivated to find something else. Wouldn't you be excited? You graduate. Doors should open. Possibilities endless. Go be a social worker. Go do whatever. Go work for the state. Go try to find something. But I wasn't motivated enough because of my 40-hour work week job at Kroger. Trauma says, you took out a degree in something that you had no chance of getting a job in. This is clearly a fault of the system. But the reality is she could find a job with that degree. She could find a better job at the grocery store with that degree. It just requires you to try.
Because it's a pandemic. Who's going to hire someone right now in a field because of the pandemic, I just thought that looking for another job was just going to be too much. So I was like, I'll stay where I am. Hopefully things get better, and then I'll move on. But
and do people measure their lives in just moments? Oh, this moment, I have to live through these moments. Don't they have a broader view to the future? to anything that could possibly happen or they could get or be given. Jesus Christ. Hagbard says HR. Exactly. HR. HR jobs.
Things didn't get better. It just got worse, you know. As eventually as, you know, the year went on, I just became more fearful, if that makes sense. There were times where, like, on my days off, all I did was sleep. You know, I didn't even get, like, the basic things I needed to get done sometimes because I was just so tired. I was so wiped out.
Yeah, it's called bad time management. That's all that is.
Physically and emotionally and mentally. And, you know, a lot of that time was basically like a fuzzy memory. I can't really even remember. Even now, I can't really remember what happened. I was just on autopilot. But there was a time that I would just dread the next day when I had to go to work. I just remember one time just lying in my bed and thinking about how I was just so afraid. And not just afraid,
So she's neurotic. She's very neurotic. Travis says, fair enough. A job she wanted. Exactly. Prophet says, this bitch needs to be forced to do picking in a grocery warehouse where you get paid by picks per minute. 12-hour shifts in the freezer. Well, I worked in a grocery warehouse. I can tell you, it's not pleasant, but you're paid okay, though. Otto, what's up, Otto? How's it going, buddy? Prof says, this bitch needs to be forced to be a greenhorn on an Alaskan crab fishing boat, except she would put everyone's life in danger. Oh my God. I've watched enough Deadliest Catch to know. A lot of those guys don't make it. That's a fucking hard job. That's a hard job. I have a friend from high school that went and did that. I think he lasted about 2 seasons. Otto says, women on ships are bad luck.
I can't even explain how I felt. It was just like an unpleasant feeling, but it was like extremely unpleasant, and
oh wow,
I don't know. I couldn't do it anymore. So I started looking for other jobs, and
no,
I did end up getting another job, but that's for another day. Anyway, that dreadful feeling that I was feeling, it got too much. It got so bad. I couldn't shake it off anymore. So I had to quit. I couldn't do it anymore. It was just too much. And even thinking about it right now, it's just scary for me.
Imagine like doing something like that for like a year plus and it breaking you, even though you've got to achieve your goals. She got to go to college. She got a degree, but she couldn't be bothered to look for another job. And then she could find another job. Trauma says, I'm happy she made this 20-minute video where she eloquently explains her position. Hagbard says she's gonna go into the family burger business. Otterock says, since crabs are so small, does that make the pincers microaggressors? Well, if they get you.
So I give him my 2 weeks, and it was so bad that I couldn't even last 2 weeks there anymore. I only went for a couple of days for the first week, and then I just stopped showing up.
I'm sure all your coworkers, all your comrades really appreciated that. Oh, yeah. Trami says she described her life as uncomfortable at least 10 times without ever going into specifics so it can be related to. We're just supposed to take her word for it. Otterock says only if they get Only if they got it noted. Straight to the gulag.
Just so over it. I was so over it. And I tried my best.
This video has 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. What could she possibly have to say?
To work within the company to see maybe if another spot was better. And whatever I did, it always blew.
We got a fucking weeb here, folks. We got goddamn Sonic the Hedgehog plushies. We got rainbows. We got this Pikachu looking motherfucker. Otto says she dresses like a neo-commie. She probably is. She probably is. Apart from the non-monochromatic shirts.
Blew up in my face. I couldn't get out of that particular department. But in retrospect, no matter where, I feel like no matter
what have we learned?
Whatever other job that I would have gotten in, I would have hated it too. And yeah, so I quit, and I felt like
so no matter what position she got, no matter what job she would have gotten at the time, she would have hated it. Seems like this may be something deeper than actually working. Maybe there's something else wrong. You know what I mean? Shaun is nurturing anti-NIGHTCAP feelings. Maybe this late stage streaming was a bad idea. Her face is going to give me night terrors, says Otto Rocks. It makes us sit through things like this. I know, but you got to know. You got to know what's out there, my friend. Otto says, we learned women are horrible storytellers.
Such relief, but at the same time, like uncertainty and fear of what would come next. The job that I applied for didn't pan out, but thankfully, and I got a temporary job. So right now, as I'm recording this, I'm working like an odd job, and my future is still uncertain, which is...
Oh my god, okay, that's enough. I can't make it to the end of that video. It's too much. It's fucking it's too much. It's too much. I don't need to know that, well, things didn't work out for you. Oh my god, she did a video where she did a parody. She has 2 videos on her channel, which was the one we just watched and this other one called Kristen Cinema Responds. Oh my goodness, I think we gotta check that out. It's very short. It's about 2 minutes long. Travis says we gotta know. We gotta know. Otto Rock says odd job means camming on the side. Travis says, yes, well, your future is uncertain because you never really applied yourself to anything. That means you never build valuable skills. Exactly. You know, like so many people that we watch, you're like, where are your parents? Like, what happened? That would be like almost more interesting than anything they have to say. It's like, well, what the fuck actually happened to you?
I'm Kirsten Cinema, and I'm here to reassure all Americans that I'm working on your behalf.
These people and their low volume videos. Can we not get it open? My God.
Just kidding, f*** you. I think what Americans need to understand is now that I'm in Congress, I'm set for life. It's
yeah, ear rape much indeed.
hard getting money from donors. I mean, you have to attend all these lavish parties and breakfasts and events.
She was jumping on the anti-cinema train. Doesn't she know she's a bisexual goddess? What the hell's going on?
You have to dress up and have a good time. And I can't forget my humble beginnings. And look at me now, I'm in the 4 seasons. I mean, do I regret selling out and becoming another career politician? Not really.
Otto says, like if AOC and cinema reproduced with Satan.
And honestly, with this reconciliation package, I'm not all for it. I think that the child care part needs to be cut out. I mean, there's already enough kids in the world as is. Medicare expansion for elderly people? Ugh. Old people are gross. Apart from the fact that my donors don't want any climate reform, I mean, I'm from Arizona, so I don't care that the world's getting hotter. Anything that does get on my nerves is being harassed by those protesters, especially when they followed me into the bathroom. Okay, that was...
Yeah, I would love to see you followed into a bathroom and yelled at. I would love it. Get back to work. There's bagels to be made. Donuts need to be made. Where's the bread, lady?
Extremely devastating. I had really bad diarrhea. I'm only willing to listen to people who have like a lot of money and give it to me. I just don't understand why the brown undocumenteds are harassing me. Is it really that bad to profit off a dying planet?
Oh my god.
I just made this because I felt like I needed to speak my truth. And this took time out of me fundraising in Europe because for some reason...
Otto says they'll tax us to end climate change, but taxing doesn't work on stopping COVID. No, because they can't actually do anything. It's just ways to take your money from you. And then they give it back to you and they act like they did you a favor.
And I'm getting money from Europe. And I had to go now because I'm late for my blood diamond massage. So, bye.
Well, keep your day job. Oh, wait a second. She can't. She quit. Trauma says, but people with money giving you money, isn't that what you complained about on the other video, wasn't it? Tax returns are loans interest free. Definitely feels like that. So that's all the videos we got. Maybe you guys want to check out the anti-work Reddit? Let's see what the anti-work Reddit has to say. Well, let me shrink myself here. Ooh, there we go. Can we do it again? There we go. Make sure everybody can read it. Anti-work, unemployment for all, not just the rich. Restructuring recent events. Finance bro talks shit to his 60-plus hour waitress friend. Needs to know if he's an asshole when he blames her for low wages. Well, that seems like a lot. I hope this is allowed because I love it. Eat the rich, but just one. Just one, I'm telling you. We just eat one billionaire and the rest will fall in line. More of those realistic positions. We generated record profits last year. Good work, team. Sorry we don't have budget for salary increase. Employee retention is difficult in this economy. A lot of memes. He speaks the truth. He does indeed. Since the CDC says a 10-day lockdown would tank the economy, it stands to reason that if the U.S. labor went on general strike for 9 days, we could demand anything we wanted. Oh my goodness. Otto says, okay, I met my quota for cringe. Thank you. Why am I not surprised this exists? Almost. All right, got to go to bed. Take care. I'll see you later, Otto. Appreciate you stopping by, buddy. The truth about how the American economy works. Nobody is trying to fix the problems we have in this country. Everyone is trying to make enough money so the problems don't apply to them anymore. Yeah, that's probably true to some degree, honestly. This is the whole problem. What is your primary responsibility when you acquire a new job? They answered to earn enough money to pay your bills. The correct answer is to help the business operate and make profit. Oh my goodness. The second party of capital strikes again. Ooh, this has been tagged with communist. Democrats have dual supermajorities in California's Assembly and Senate. Gavin Newsom, the state's governor, is a Democrat who campaigned on single payer. Today, single payer died in the state assembly. The state's insurance industry wins again. They must be very disappointed in all the people they constantly vote for over and over and over again. Travis says, I definitely agree with that, but it's just an observation, not an argument. Yeah, there's lots of things, right? Like there's a Venn diagram. There's lots of parity you can find within these kinds of movements. And if you're not a critical thinker, if you're the type of person that just wants a salve, just wants an answer, you find it and you're just like, oh my God, this is it. I found a way through it. If I join you, you'll be nice to me. And I agree with you. And that's about as deep as it goes. We are told in the U.S. to give 30% of our monthly salaries just to have a home. Oh, probably a nice home at that rate. Organize, Educate, Agitate says, in the Soviet Union, the state kept the rents below 4% of the employees' monthly salaries. Above 4% was criminal. Yeah, but what is the quality of life of for those people? Like, below 4% of what? Yeah, so you're going to live in a giant fucking block of apartments, little 500 square foot apartments, because, well, that meets your 4% requirement, because it's all relative to what you make. It's relative to what you make. Was their goal to make young people so resentful that in the future our primary source of entertainment will be watching assisted living facilities burn down? It feels like what millennials have learned in the last 15 years is that absolutely none of our institutions are looking out for us, providing a safety net or rooting for us to succeed. Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. And it just seems like there's just more of that. More with that. I guess that's what happens when you have a Reddit of 1.6 million people. Not a lot there. Not a lot to look at. Mankind was meant to work in December. We weren't meant to hide from wolves, drink, and pray our autumn harvest will last us through the dark months. Sure. Oh my God. Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for it? This is from Derek Smith. A mustachioed, looks like he's a nurse. Last words I'll never forget. The response my patient gasped out between labored breaths to me and my team after we explained that he needed to be intubated and placed on a ventilator. We then called his wife to have him speak to her for what was likely his last opportunity, as many patients do not recover once tubed. This situation is by far the worst thing I've witnessed in my collective 12 years of critical care and anesthesia. Next level heartbreaks equals having to hear a dying patient use his last words to worry about healthcare finances. This country is truly a failed state, and it's so sickening to witness firsthand, more blatantly than ever. That's a sad story. I don't know what that has to do with anti-work. If the office can be managed from home, then the home can also be managed from the workplace. Finally, a desk for working parents. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of work done with little Toby here sitting right next to you. Oh, yeah. Trauma says we have a lot of those concrete blocks built in the 50s and 60s. You know who lives in them? The absolute poorest. Yeah. 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 We have the same thing in the United States. They're called ghettos. Affordable housing. My apologies. Revolting is kinky. My fetish is rich people not getting what they want. Define rich people. For most people like this, rich people is anyone that has more than they do. Unpopular opinion, meet popular opinion. The best thing you can do early in your career is to realize no company will ever care about you, and you should work as little as you need to in order to get by and not give them even one extra second of your life. Jordan Kong said, unpopular opinion, the best thing young people can do early in their careers is to work on the weekends. Yeah, it's about demonstrating value. Most companies like to make money. Most companies like to be successful, whether that's a mom and pop restaurant or that's a giant corporation. They like to see that people will provide them something, and then they will in turn give you something back. Monday Funnies. Travis says, if you never want to be recognized for your work, That's an excellent strategy. Exactly. What is the strangest thing you've done for cash? I took out a loan to go to school so I could get a job to pay off my school loans. Yeah, predatory lending is a problem. 1,000%. And, yeah, it just kind of goes on from there. I don't know. We could probably... It's just the same shit over and 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 over again. Well, I think we're going to have an early night. I don't know if I can... How much more I can stand of fucking anti-work stuff. I don't know if I can do it. I don't think I can do any more. I think that's about it. It's going to do it for the show. Thank you guys for coming and joining. Remember, there's no show on Wednesday night. We'll be back Friday night on YouTube with something. Do something fun. Travis, do a check-in on Diane for old time's sake. You know, I'm going to save that for Friday because I think she's had a lot of new stuff. And I found a lot of old stuff of hers as well that's been disappeared from YouTube, but they still exist. I've been sitting on it for a while. I've been sitting on it for a minute. But I was kind of waiting until like the right moment. Because we did that huge, like 5-hour stream about Diane. So I'm waiting. I'm biding my time. But we'll be back. We'll be back Friday. I can't do it Wednesday because I have other Zoobox stuff to do. I have other Zoobox editing to get done. I have 2 podcasts. I've got 2. One goes to the library. One goes to the movies. Recorded. Needs to be edited. And I got to get that stuff done. And but anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. I appreciate you guys. You make the show better. Tarami, Hagbird, Otto, Prophet, Big Paul. Thanks for stopping by. And we'll see you guys again on Friday. Good night.